afternoon, good evening to all of you. With great pleasure, I welcome you all for this World Environmental Day celebrations from organized and hosted by Consultants Consortium of Chennai, as well as Management System Consultants Consortium of Chennai. My name is Srikanthan. I am Secretary for CCC, Consultants Consortium of Chennai. And we started this association somewhere in 2019. So we have been successfully conducting for the last 5-6 years various seminars and educational programs from CCC. Now, Pan India MSCC has been recently legalized, and the Pan India Association is also ready now. So I welcome all the guest speakers, eminent guest speakers for this session. I welcome all the team members, coordinators of this program today. And I welcome all the participants to this session on World Environmental Day. And the theme has been, as you know, it is for land restoration. Just a minute. Yeah, as you can see the global theme for this day is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. So it's our land, our future, and we are the generation who has to restore the glory back. So we are in damage control mode, so we would say. So to introduce Consultants Consortium of Chennai, it's registered under the Tamil Nadu Societies Act. We are based in Chennai. And this is basically a platform for management system consultants and other allied consultants. So we just don't stop just with management consultants. We are also encouraging other financial consultants, safety consultants, and other auditors who are in this field. So we have different sector-specific consultants with rich experience and varied competencies. And our objective is to focus on industry education, promoting quality as a part of national quality vision, and promote various management system standards for different sectors. So a lot of new standards are being released, sector specific. So our idea is to promote education to the industry, the customers, and the various stakeholders. And we want to be a representative of the voice of the management system consulting community. So far, there has been no registered consultancy platform. So this is a first initiative, according to our knowledge in India. Then CCC is the first consulting community registered with a legal approval. So our objective is to focus on knowledge dissemination to the industry on an ongoing basis about all the standards, certifications, accreditations, inspections, regulations, etc. So that's the objective of CCC. And let me also introduce you the MSCC. So this is Management System Consultancy. This is a Pan India association. We have close to 300 consultants who are registered and as a member here. And it's based in Delhi. And we also got the legal approval. So the purpose is the same, to elevating standards, excellence in quality of services, information, and value addition. So to cater all sectors and domains, the desire to bring about change, be a voice for elevating standards and services. So we have IT consultants, marketing, branding consultants, financial consultants, costing consultants, technical, from various sectors and domains. We have consultants. So it's an opportunity for MS consultants at all levels as a learning opportunity, primarily through, we have a strong WhatsApp group where there is a lot of knowledge sharing which happens, and it's purely professional network. And so this is about MSSC. So coming to today's program, we have a very, what do you call, jam-packed program designed by our president, Mrs. Rama Venugopal, and duly assisted and guided by Mr. Anil Juari, ex-NABCB. He has been our mentor right from the beginning. And this is the agenda. So as you see, we have a jam-packed program. So we may have to do time management well, as Rama ma'am said. This is the second page, technical session 1, and we have technical session 2. So this is the overall agenda. And I would like to first welcome the team coordinators who has been working and supporting Rama ma'am and Anil Juari sir for this organizing this program. So let me introduce them. Just I'll open the PPT. Okay. We have Mr. Sangameshwaran. Thanks, Arti. We have Mr. Sangameshwaran, who is a ISO lead auditor, as well as a trainer for environmental management system. He has more than 15 years of working experience in the industry before getting into a role of a consultant in environmental management, municipal solid management, and environmental impact assessment. So he has been there for 6 years. For the last 9 years, he is a consultant come external auditor and trainer in DNV. So I welcome Mr. Sangameshwaran. And the second coordinator is Mr. Anurag Gupta. Arti, can you share? Yeah. Mr. Anurag Gupta is the CEO of Madhyam, and he has more than 3 decades of experience in secondary and special steel industry. He is a trainer, advisor, and an auditor with 24 years of experience in second-party audits of value chain partners of famous FMCG company, e-commerce, pharma, hygiene, on quality, environment, occupational health and safety, human rights, business ethics, and biodiversity. So we have 2 senior coordinators for today's program. And let me also introduce our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Suhas P. Wani, Dr. Suhas P. Wani. Can I have the profile, please? Yeah, Dr. Suhas P. Wani is a former director, research program of Asia ICRISAT, India. And he is a visiting professor at UOA Edmonton, served as a member of the Sustainable Agriculture Advisory, SOB, which is called SOB in Unilever, UK, as a board member of JSW. Currently, he serves as an international consultant in Manila, FAO, FAD, and is also a board member of the JSW Foundation and SM Segal Foundation. Has contributed 6 strategic papers to the Prime Minister's office, including the health mapping, DBT, weather-based crop insurance, pulses, sufficiency, and digital agriculture. Published more than 600 plus research papers. He has received several awards from Government of India, China, and Vietnam, and is also recognized as the 50 most impactful leader in water and water management. I welcome Dr. Suhas P. Wani. So to take over the inaugural session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me share my presentation. And let me take this opportunity to thank the organizers as well as Anilji, who coaxed me to be here for the today's program. And as you know that my background is agriculture, land management, water management, and so on and so forth. So for industry people, it may be entirely different view for my talk. So bear with me. What I will be talking basically today is about land degradation, desertification, drought resilience, what are our challenges and opportunities. As you see in this picture, the greatest challenge is the water, and water management is the cause for land degradation because of soil erosion and also to the wind erosion, the soil gets degraded. To form the topsoil, 1 centimeter, it takes 100 years, but to take away that soil through erosion doesn't take more than 2 years or so as such in the field condition. So with that sort of background, we have these planetary boundaries where the scientists have identified the safe operating space for humanity. By 2009, we had crossed 3 of the 9 boundaries, and by 2015, we have crossed 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries in terms of climate change, ocean acidification, chemical pollution, so on and so forth. And we all are experiencing the impacts of the climate change. And if we don't pull up our socks now quickly, then there will be a disaster. We have forgotten that the land on which we are staying or the earth where we are the tenants, but we are behaving like the owners of the earth, and that's what is causing the land degradation and the climate change as such. So if we have to manage the challenges, our challenges are water scarcity, which I am sure in Chennai everyone experiences it. And throughout the India, it has become like a challenge for all of us to manage the water. Big cities like Bangalore, Sambhajinagar, even Hyderabad have the problem of water. We get once in 2 days. Sambhajinagar gets once in 8 days. In Bangalore, there are rules and regulations. If you use the drinking water for washing the car or such, you are penalized for that. Climate change is taking place, and we already have looked at the changes over the last 60 years in India, and we have found that the aridity has increased in the states of Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Karnataka. And these are the granaries of the India. So if these areas become drier, temperature goes up, then we will face the food shortages as such. Land degradation is a great challenge because 120 million hectare land in India is affected by one or the another way of land degradation, which may be physical, chemical, biological, and so on and so forth. Although we do not have absolute poverty in India, we have the poverty which is around 22%, and imbalance in the nutrition, malnutrition is there, which is around 38%, which is higher than some of our neighboring countries like Bangladesh and other countries as such. So food security is a challenge as such, and for that, land, water are the important drivers which enable us to get the land foods production as such. If we look into the challenge, In most developing countries in Asia and Africa, sustainable management of natural resources like land, water, and environment is a great challenge for policymakers as well as for people during the 21st century, as these are directly linked with several sustainable development goals. The world's population has been projected, and we already reached 8 billion by 15th November 2022. And the latest projection by the United Nations suggests that the global population could grow to around 8.5 billion in 2030, 9.7 billion in 2050, and 10.4 billion in 2100. We have already surpassed China, and India is the most populous country in the world, and there is a pressing need to enlarge area under arable lands by reclaiming degraded lands for sustainable intensification of agriculture, in which crop yields can be increased without compromising and yielding to adverse environmental impacts and without reducing the area under forest. And that is a big challenge for all of us. The untapped potential of the marginal lands and wastelands can be harnessed to ensure food safety. Wastelands are formed by natural and human-made reasons such as snow-covered areas, coastal saline areas, forest blanks, barren hill ridges, etc. And the committee constituted by the Planning Commission has defined wasteland as degraded land which can be brought under vegetative cover with reasonable efforts and which is currently underutilized land and is deteriorating for lack of appropriate water and soil management or on account of natural causes. There are instances of land turning into marginal degraded lands due to insufficient water supply and steep slopes, deforestation, overgrazing, overcultivation, and unskilled irrigation also majority contribute to the formation of wastelands. As you know, earlier we were talking of tillage. Now we talk about zero tillage, minimum tillage to avoid the land loss or the soil loss from the fields. Soil degradation is defined as a process which lowers the current and the potential capability of soil to produce quantitatively and qualitatively goods or services. Diminution of soil quality and thereby its current potential productivity and reduction in its ability to be multi-purpose resource due to both natural and human-induced causes. The decline in soil quality caused through its misuse, process that describes human-induced phenomena which lower the current and the future capability of the soil to support human life, decline in any or all of the characteristics which make soil suitable for producing food. Soil degradation occurs through the deterioration of the physical, chemical, and biological properties of soil, as indicated earlier, and also results into soil compaction, salinization, acidification, topsoil loss from wind and water erosion. Total area under degraded land increased from 96.6 million hectare in 2011-13 from about 94.5 million hectare in 2003 to 2005. Erosion is India's main pathway of soil degradation. Estimated 3 billion tons of soil gets eroded to the oceans annually. And three principal types of degradation are recognized, as I have said, physical, chemical, and biological. And under this, if we look into the degradation process of physical, it is mainly through compaction, lateralization, erosion, and depletion. Erosion could be because of wind, as it happens in the Rajasthan, where the sand dunes are formed, and water erosion, where the rainfall is higher, there the water erosion takes place. Chemical degradation takes basically because of the fertility imbalance. As you know that plant needs 16 elements, but generally we take care of 3 or 4 elements, which are macronutrients, and that's how basically the land degradation also has taken place. The acidification, solidification, and toxic compounds also occur in the soils because of the chemical land degradation. And biological, basically decline in the soil organic matter, reduction in the microbiome, that is macro and microflora fauna of the soil as such. There is a strong nexus between the degraded lands and the poverty. Generally, poor and small landholders own the degraded lands. Although aware of the processes causing land degradation, such as water erosion, nutrient depletion, loss of soil organomatter, etc., they adopt the low subsistence agriculture instead of remunerative agriculture using improved hybrid high value crops and cultivars with more inputs largely because of their poor economic condition. And there is a huge untapped potential for enhancing agricultural productivity of such wasted or degraded lands with basically water crop management options which are there. As we have looked at the land degradation, physical, chemical, biological, I will not get into details in this one, but these are the extent of degraded and wastelands in India. And as you see that water erosion is the one which is at the top, causing almost 73.27 million hectares of area degraded because of the water. Then comes the weed erosion, salt affected soils, salt affected and water eroded soils, acidic soils, acid and water eroded soils, and so on and so forth. So when we talk of chemical degradation, as we said that most of the people, farmers understand, and that's how they are communicated by the fertilizer companies and the dealers, that if they take care of NPK, then their crops will be good. And nitrogen, because it is subsidized, the farmers think that it is the one which should be put into the soil more. And the nitrogen effect is seen very quickly because of the green color of the crop. But we forget that there is a nitrous oxide formation as well as nitrate pollution of groundwater takes place with the imbalanced use of fertilizer. Lower efficiency of fertilizer is resulting into the low yields, and then the farmer's arithmetic doesn't work out. Waterlogging areas affected by submergence or flooding cover about 12 million hectares, and regressive pedogenesis is an example of natural chemical degradation in semi-arid tropical soils. Development of sodicity is not realized yet, realized in desert soils due to their sandy texture, plus enduring better leaching of bicarbonates due to their sandy textural class, and PC, that is polycarbonate, is generally observed at greater depth. And when we have looked into chemical degradation, we have found across different states that most of the soils in the states are deficient in micro and secondary nutrients. And when we talk about micro, they are required in small quantity, but the law of minimum kicks in once the level goes particular level below. And that's where basically the fertilizer use efficiency as well as water use efficiency decreases. And that's where basically the challenge comes as such. And this you can see that basically across the different states, more than 10,000 soil samples have been analyzed, geotagged, and you can find that in most of the soils, there are deficiency of organic matter. One of the main reasons is that we are the semi-arid tropical country where the rate of degradation of carbon is very high as compared to the tropical temperate regions. And that's why our organic matter content is low. Our soils are not that fertile as we find or come across in America, Canada, and Europe, and so on and so forth. And that's where we need to take care of balanced land nutrition. Land degradation neutrality is important, and we need to look at the UNCCD, that is United Nations on Conservation and Degradation, have done this land degradation neutrality initiative started. Such steps will render land resources to be protected and restored to promote the sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, including forests. And the main objective is to help reversing land or soil degradation and combat climate change. Many reasons for land area being dwindled, of which degradation of both natural and anthropogenic is essential. It seems logical to save our motherland and focus on land degradation neutrality, where land degradation neutrality will help to provide necessary ecosystem functions and services of the land resources, enhance food security. Target audiences of land degradation neutrality include individual organizations, influence improving or transforming land management practices, and land use planning at different scales. For Indian situations, this may well include every citizen, the farmers, do's and don'ts, government organizations, as well as non-governmental organizations, universities, academia, and research institutes, etc. So for minimizing the land degradation, we need to adopt the integrated watershed management approach, and it should be innovative, inclusive. That means small farmers should be included in the demonstrations as well as adoption studies. The intensive intervention should be there, so crop intensification must be the part of that, and it should be integrated. Because as you know, in India, farmers' income from the crop is only 30 to 35%, and that he gets or she gets from 2 or 3 crops grown in their field. And under such situation, if everyone decides to talk about discipline and then advice to the farmers and the crop and livestock and poultry and goatry, then farmer doesn't have time. And they are looking for one stop solutions for their problems as such. The approach should be sustainable, it should be socially acceptable, scalable, and it should be synergistic, addressing the issues of equity, efficiency, environment protection, and basically the uh, collective action through capacity building, convergence should be the one which will allow us to address the issues in a holistic, integrated manner as such. So these are some of the examples where we do the land pump treatments to minimize the runoff. So more water can be put into the soil moisture, and that is referred as the green water. The irrigation water which we use is the blue water, and then the drainage water is the gray water. And that's where basically we need to bring in the integrated water resource management, enhancing the efficiency of the green water, because 65% of biomass produced in the world is from the green water. But our emphasis always, as because of the policymakers as well as the farmers' demand and so on and so forth, we always talk about the blue water only, and green water is not considered as a source of water which is coming from the rains as such. This we have already talked, changes in the climate change. Most of us, we know what to do, but do not know how to do. Means our science of delivery is not there. And that is where the major concern is. We have all technologies available in the research organizations, universities, etc., but are not reaching to the farmers. And that's where the developmental research, which has been shied away by the policymakers, by the research managers, by the publishers of the scientific journals, etc., need to be taken into thing. Otherwise, we end up into the death valley of impacts where all the research falls down. We have done this integrated manner of land management, water management in Karnataka for 9 years, and it has reached to almost 5 million farmers, covering 7.4 million hectares, and basically total economic benefit to the farmers has come to 453 million. But it is not that easy to get through the system as such, because government of Karnataka had growth rate of 1% or minus for 8 years in agriculture. And that's where they were panicked that what should be done. They called us to suggest the ways and means. We told them we'll give you 5% growth, provided you do exactly what we ask you to do. Don't tell us that time the secretary doesn't agree, the director doesn't agree, the minister doesn't agree and so on and so forth. Because of no choice, they agreed and it worked very well. For 9 years, we have seen three governments, but no one could change the name of the scheme nor the criteria of the scheme as such, because there was so much demand from the bottom up farmers that no policymaker could tinkle with the scheme as such. And looking at this, then the government of Telangana, government of Andhra Pradesh also adopted, and currently government of Odisha is undertaking the Bhuchetana as such. And if you Google through Bhuchetana, you will find all the things. Improve soil health, basically we have to do the conservation of soil, diversify the systems with legumes. Our old systems were growing 3, 4 crops together, but because of mechanization, we have gone to sole crops of rice, wheat, so on and so forth. Organic matter management should be taken, and balanced nutrition, emerging widespread micronutrient deficiencies must be tackled to minimize the land degradation. We should get away from managing the agriculture in compartments, and it should be managed holistically in an integrated manner as such. I will finish in 2 minutes. Intensification in high potential agroecologies. For rice, there is enough water in the soil. Following the rice in the Rabi season, then the lands are left fallow. And these are almost 11 million hectare land, which is left fallow in Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, and so on and so forth, 5, 6 states, Odisha, etc. So we provided the solution to the government, saying that it should be a holistic approach because they need to have the machinery to sow the crop, they should have the seed availability, there should be buyback guarantee for the pulses, and so on and so forth. And 3 years, India became self-sufficient in the pulses. Earlier, we were importing 5 to 6 million tons of pulses from Canada, Thailand, Africa, and so on and so forth. So this is the rice fallow management, which we have already discussed. We need to diversify the crops with high value crops so that there should be efficiency of water management through drip, sprinklers, solar power, as well as need-based irrigation rather than the calendar-based irrigation. We need to co-create the solutions by working together with the farmers, the youths, corporates, researchers, development agencies, etc. Because collaborative capacity is far, far higher than the investment capacity. And that's what basically we should look at, the collaboration or the consortium approach as such. And that is how it works. So these, you can see that so many wheels have to run in tandem. And that's where the finally farmer gets the source of livelihood as such. And to provide or enable this, we need to adopt farmer-centric, integrated, inclusive market-oriented development as such. And this we have done in the Bundelkhand region of Uttar Pradesh, and farmers' incomes are doubled within 4 years as such. So this is in short, I had to share with you. I will be glad if there is a time to provide any clarifications as needed. Thank you very much.
So you can stop sharing. Okay, thank you, Dr. Suhas. It was a wonderful session. You touched the basics rather than the industry. So agriculture is the foundation of this nation, and you had given us a lot of insight into the land and water restoration and how to do the sustainable development. As you know, the global population is on the rise, and what are the challenges that are faced now? And you touched upon the land and soil degradation, wastelands in India, and the chemical degradation. And some echo is coming. Somebody's echo.
I'm just checking, sir, actually.
So how to neutralize the land degradation? You have touched upon very nicely. And collaboration is the mantra. So thank you, Dr. Suhas. And now I hand over the session to Mr. Sangameshwaran to carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srikantan and Dr. Suhaswani for your keynote address. Good afternoon to all speakers and participants. I'm Sangameshwar. I'm the host for this first technical session. So we will have 5 speakers and we will go one by one. And since we are unfortunately hard pressed for time, request the participants to put their questions in the Q&A box, and we'll try to take 2 or 3 questions towards the end of the session. The first technical session subject is environmental protection, climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, ESG, and sustainability standards. Our first speaker is Mr. Rajiv Ranjan from our reputed Bureau of Indian Standards, to the national body for all standards, and now they're working on sustainability standards also. So his designation is Scientist C, Management and Systems in BIS. I'll briefly introduce him. He's a member secretary of the MSD 10 Social Responsibility Sectional Committee, which deals with formulation of standards at national level, broadly on areas of social responsibility. He's also dealing with relevant ISO technical committees like ISO TC 309, which is responsible for formulation of similar standards at the ISO level. Before this, he was engaged in the certification activity of the Bureau of Indian Standards. He has also conducted a number of product certification audits. I now request Rajiv Ranjan ji to kindly make his presentation.
Thank you, sir. Please let me know whether if I am audible here. So if anyone
Yes.
can please confirm me. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, you're
you're
audible.
audible. Very much
Thank-
audible.
Thank you. So I am just sharing my screen. Basically, in my presentation, I will just quickly go with what is the work being done at ESG at international level and what we are doing. So just a moment.
I request all participants to mute their mic, please. Thank you. Please go ahead, sir.
So I am just trying to open my PowerPoint. So please let me know whether my screen is visible now.
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So basically, my name is Rajiv Ranjan, and I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. I will be delivering my address basically on sustainability reporting and conformity assessment. What is being done at international level and what is being done in India, particularly in BIS. And please let me know whether my slides are changing because I have just changed my
No.
slides.
Presentation is not open. Only
Okay.
the presentation is not yet open.
Okay.
Only a folder with the files getting displayed.
You can please open the, yeah, right.
So now whether it is open now?
Yes,
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 yes.
yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So basically, I will be delivering my address on sustainability reporting, what I was telling on, and the conformity assessment. So this is the general flow of sustainability reporting. This is how the standard and all the things goes like. First of all, regulations are being made by the regulators or some directives are being issued. Like in case of India, we have SEBI has issued number of directives in the form of BRSR code and something like that. So implementing entities, they are directly implementing the things. Now the thing comes that directives are there, regulations are there, but something has to be rating agencies has to be there, and some basis of reporting should be there. So on the basis of this, there are number of rating agencies are there. They are generally providing the rating services. And then it comes the role of assurance engagement providers, like in some letters they are giving, providing the ratings and also very, these are assurance engagement providers are nothing but they are basically verification agencies that verify the sustainability reporting. Since nowadays the word sustainability is a very buzzword, so I am not going into definition of that sustainability reporting and all. So this is how basically the general flow of sustainability reporting is there. Like there are some entities are there who are implementing the things, some entities who are issuing the regulatory directives, and then there are some verifiers are there who are doing the validation and verification. And these verifiers, they issue reports or opinions. So at international level, this is how the framework goes like. At international framework for conformity assessment is like we have International Accreditation Forum is there. Basically, this accreditation forum is nothing but association of different accreditation bodies throughout the world. And they basically provides conformity assessment recognition to accreditation bodies on the basis of as per ISO 17011 through multilateral agreement. And in the, on the basis of this, they are giving the accreditation body are being accredited, and these accreditation bodies, they are basically accrediting the conformity assessment bodies. Like in India, we have NABCB, and they are doing the role of accreditation body. And they are all providing the accreditation to different conformity assessment bodies. Like in our number of schemes of BIS have also been accredited by NABCB on the basis of ISO 17029. This ISO standard basically provides the framework of conformity assessment, and that is being done on the basis of the competency is verified for CABs and all. And now this CAB is basically conformity assessment bodies. They are supposed to validate and verify the declaration that is being done by the declared entity, whether it can be any firm or it can be any agency. So here we have some gap areas that at ISO, they are formulating standards on ISO 14019, that part 1 and part 2. So at present, this particular standard is under development and it is under CD stage. In subsequent slide, I will again discuss with this thing. Part one basically it derives and gives the general principles on how ESG should be monitored. And part 2 basically mentions some KPIs that what requirements should be there. And as we have I have informed in my first slide that different regulators, they issue directions, but for any agency or any industry should have some standard. On the basis of that, they need to declare those KPIs. So on the formation of which we have identified certain gap areas. In subsequent slides, I will discuss with them. So for those declarations, we are formulating certain standards. So to summarize about my all previous slide, this is what I was telling on about National Framework for Sustainability Reporting. as you can see in the form of regulators, we have in India, we have different regulators like SEBI, ministries are there, other departments are there. Now we have implementers are there. Any implementing entities like any organizations will be there. Rating agencies will be there. Auditors will be there, etc. And basically the guidelines or the way of declaring those declarations is supposed to be mentioned in those standards. That will be to apply the regulations and directives for assurance. So these are some of the Indian and international standards related to ESG. As you can see, we have ISO IEC 17029 that I was discussing on. It is regarding conformity assessment, general principles and requirements for validation and verification bodies. Similarly, we have ISO 14065. This is again for general principles and requirements for bodies validating and verifying the environmental information. Similarly, we have ISO 17000, that is for conformity assessment, vocabulary and general principle. And similarly, we have different standards. Similarly, we have different risk management standards, ISO 31000, which states about guidelines. ISO 37000 standard is there, which speaks about governance of organization. It also mentions the guideline. These are basically the guideline standard. And there is an indigenous standard, IS 26001. This basically states with the corporate social responsibility requirements. This standard has also been revised, and if you will refer in 26001, we have stated number of requirements are mentioned. That is being done for the companies which are declaring with respect to corporate social responsibility. Similarly, we have different indigenous standards are in there. 26002 series, for conducting assurance engagement. So these are the certain gap areas that we have identified. That standards, there should be standards for comprehensive coverage for disclosure and rating of ESG issues, because nowadays ESG has been something a very quite buzzword and quite interesting number. So in the line of this, what we have done, we have identified some 17 different areas in which we are formulating the standards. And these standards basically covers the declaration and verification requirements, including the rating of ESG performance. Out of these 17 topics, 5 are related to environment, 4 are related to social factors, and 2 are related to governance areas. And some are horizontal standards, which will be applicable to all the 3 areas under E, S, and G. And similarly, we have 2 standards that 14019 that I was referring to, which is under preparation at international level. These are the standards for validation and verification of conformity assessment. Like it is being manufactured, being formulated at ISO under ISO TC 207 by SC2, and it is a joint working group working with CASCO. So it is joint working group 6. Similarly, we have some sustainability management system standards also. ISO TC 343 is also working on sustainability management system standards. These are some of the development which is being done at international level. And the first one, 17 standards, is being formulated at national level by BIS. So this is how things are being planned at ISO as of now. ISO TC 207 and CASCO joint working group, they are formulating standards on ISO 14019 part 1 and part 2. And basically, when these standards will be formulated, it will give some base to verify what is to be verified and how to verify. And basically, as you can see, part 1 will stand for validation and verification of sustainability information. It will basically give the companies to, it will just start some general principles and requirements what the companies should declare. And part two will be for the auditor, the auditing process, like it will entail define that how the verification process should be done and what is to be verified. And now on developments at BIS level, since at BIS we are formulating standards, which has implication of being the national standards body. So any standard which is being published by BIS, it has implication of throughout the India. So in BIS, we have a structure like this. We have MSD 10 sectional committees there, which goes by the name Social Responsibility Sectional Committee. Under this committee, we have formulated some subcommittee of which is exclusively dealing under ESG related topics. And to further, we have formulated some 11 working groups. And out of these 11 working groups, we are trying to formulate 17 standards are being proposed. And we have basically identified these standards to be covering different areas, and we have invited experts from different domains, whether it is from academia, from the government ministries, and then we have some experts from consultant group. And we have tried to maintain a very diverse working group so that we can use the expertise of all the experts from different level. And basically the idea of formulating this is it will give an direction to the companies that what should be the basis of disclosures. So these are the list of standards which is being proposed, which we have proposed in BIS, and obviously we are working on this one. As you can see, sustainability reporting standards are there. These are for general requirements. Similarly, for sustainability reporting is there. This for general disclosure. Basically, these two are very generic standards, and it is planned that these standards will be applicable to all the fields, whether it is related to environment or social and or for governance. Similarly, if you will go by the third one, that is exclusively for climate change, sustainability reporting and disclosure requirement for pollution. Then we have for water and marine resources. Then we have biodiversity and ecosystem. Similarly, we have for resource use and circular economy. So you can see that we have identified different areas. And as of now, we have proposed there should be 17 standards. In future, we may also merge it into 3 parts. But initially, at this point, things are at very nascent stage. So we have kept them separately. So, and similarly on these lines also, ISO is also formulating some new work agreement. They have formulating that international work agreement number 48, that is being known as IWA 48. In that ISO is also formulating standards on ESG. So they are also working some of this, that they are also trying to define some E, S, and G components separately, and they are also planning to define some KPIs in that. But that is also under development at ISO level. So that was the brief information from my side, and thank you. And I would like to seek your some take on your questions if you have.
Thank you, Mr. Rajiv Ranjan. It's really heartening to note that BIS is working on standards development on ESG and proposing nearly 17 standards on environment, social, and ESG governance. So thank you, and we will move to the next speaker. So the second speaker in this session . Yeah, so Anandita Rai Mukherjee is the second speaker on this session, and she will be speaking on private sustainability standards and certification schemes. She's a senior manager, system assurance, trustee secretariat. She has extensive experience in systems implementation, business management, quality assurance, and process improvements with leading industries. She has demonstrated a competence in system development, incorporating various applicable process controls in line with the UHSC policies. She has a multidisciplinary experience with hands-on approach to support development of business strategies. She has contributed towards business enhancement, worked in certification body. Value-added contribution while performing audits till date, mainly in the quality and sustainability sector. So welcome Anandita and request you to please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, sir. I would like to share my presentation now.
Yes, please go ahead.
So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you everyone once again, and thank you to the organizer, including our Anil Jawhari sir, and to the August audience for having me in today's session, this forum. When I have seen the agenda with the speakers, I was really very much delighted to see all the experienced people, and I'm sure that I would like to get many information as from the last previous two sessions I already had. So without a further delay, I will just start talking about this particular standard. So trustee is a sustainability standard, and we all know what sustainability means. Yeah. So basically, sustainability standards are basically on three pillars. So one is the environment, the primary one, then livelihood and safety. And these are all interlinked between like all these three with the collectively contribution to a holistic approach. So what is basically sustainability? So we all have many ideology, many kind of glossary statement, many thing definitions, but basically it is like human activity that should be conducted in such a manner where the supports that should support the long-term ecological balance and economic viability with social well-being. And in trustee also we focus into these three pillars. But today, as it is an world environment,
Has she got lost?
Yeah, sorry, we lost her.
No, I think, Anandita, are you there?
yes, I think I lost my connection somehow.
Right. I'm
Okay,
just,
I
okay.
realized that late actually, sorry.
That's okay. Please go ahead.
Now I guess it's okay, right?
yeah.
Yes. Can you?
So we can see my screen.
No, we can't see your screen.
Okay. So I don't know why suddenly it's showing the internet connection is unstable.
Turn off your video and
I can share your screen, the presentation.
I think she got logged out, so we'll just give her a sec.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I'm really sorry. I have changed my connection now. I don't know. There was some problem, I believe.
That's
So
fine. Please
Okay,
continue.
we can hear you. Please continue.
I'm sorry. I'll just share once. Yeah, is it visible?
See your screen, yes.
Okay, so I was talking about the sustainability pillars. I don't know if that time I was connected or not. So it is mainly on three pillars. So environment, livelihood, and safety. And sustainability means to us basically where the human activity that are conducted in such a manner where that supports long-term ecological balance, economical viability, and the social well-being. So trustee is also following these three main pillars. And as today is the environmental day, so I would like to take that and how, like, what is mainly related to that and how trustee is addressing that, along with how a certification can help to promote this overall sustainability field and maintain the credibility in the system. So how we are attached to this system, like where we are talking about environmental pillar, that is mainly on the resource management. So how we should maintain the resource, manage the resource, mainly natural resource, which is soil, water, and promoting the renewable energy like wind, solar, and reduce the dependency on the fossil fuel, because we all know that that is limited, very much limited. Then another one is pollution reduction. So pollution is a very big concern all over the world, and India, mainly Delhi and West Bengal, we are facing a huge problem related to pollution. So emission standards, that is limiting the greenhouse gas emission, and how we are managing the waste, that waste disposal, then recycle, segregate in a proper way, and identify whether that is like hazardous, non-hazardous. So these things are very important when it comes to the environmental related issues. Then conservation of biodiversity, as we all know that biodiversity is something where we need to protect the habitats. So that is again a very important concern in sustainability field. Then sustainable agriculture and forestry. So agriculture is a huge field in India, mainly where we are getting so many things from our Mother Earth, and mainly when it comes to tea, tea is a one of the biggest industry in India, where we are having these things. And the main thing is that tea is something where you need moderate temperature, moderate, basically overall the heat, moderate water, everything. Like even if one parameter change, whole things will collapse. So there we have to follow the climate change. We have to stick to our point that how to retain that particular temperature or the climate condition, everything when it is coming to tea. And there we need to come with some innovation and technology, because nowadays without technology, without innovation, we cannot sustain. Earlier things were different. Earlier we used to know that climate change and weather are two different things. One is for a very long year change in weather, but nowadays it is becoming very frequent. So we are calling it climatic change, but then it is coming like within every 5-10 years, the things are changing in the overall scenario. So how to mitigate that climate change and how to adapt? So reducing the carbon footprint and how to build the resilience. So the sustainability standard, not only trustee, but all other international standards are talking about all these pillars. Maybe just going further to in a little bit detail to that. So how trustee is helping. So through its code, we are having like under environment segment, we are having 6 sections. So one is the soil management. So we can all see here in these pictures that one soil, like whether it was the tea bushes were uprooted, and then we can see the soil had become like almost a concrete kind of a thing, and it has lost all its nutrients, all the microorganism, all these things. So how to get a very good soil, where we are talking about the soil management part. It is not only boosting the plant nutrition, but also boosting the soil nutrition. If we boost the plant nutrition, we will get the yield for maybe a couple of years. But if we boost the soil, with that will continue. So how to do this management, how to monitor the soil health, that is very important. Where we are playing a very big role, like improving the ground cover by manual weed management, reducing the application of herbicides. Then we do the compost application, then application of concoction to improve the microflora dynamics the root region of that particular plant. Then erosion control, already we all know that that is one of the key funda in like sustainability, where we need the soil to be at this place and not to wash out with some external climatic change or anything similar. Then another important thing is like carbon matter enhancement, organic matter enhancement. So how to do that with our practice, day-to-day practice, certain change in our daily practice, doing some modulation, we can do these things in a much better way. So encouragement of composting, that is one of the biggest thing. And then green manure usage in newly planted areas to enhance the soil organic carbon stock. So that is also very important, how to get this carbon sequestration on ground, reducing the tillage. All these things are coming under soil management. That is actually trustees' criteria for soil management. And if they follow all these things, automatically things will improve. The soil, total overall soil health will improve. Then coming to water management. So this is again a very where we talk about efficient irrigation. And to add to that, water table measurement is very important before any season, after any season, to understand that whether their water table is going down or not. That is one of the major criteria when we are talking about water management. Then water conservation, that tracking the water usage throughout the year, how much we are taking and how we can replenish that water, maybe through various means like rainwater harvesting and similar kind of a thing. Train the people. And then also, community awareness is also very important when it comes to water, because they must know that how to optimize the water usage. And water quality protection, that is also very important again, like ensuring the factory or agricultural waste runoffs should not go to the local area water bodies, so that it will contaminate. So making a buffer zone or making a filtration point, putting ETP, tasting the effluents, wastewater. So all these things are very much important when we are talking about water management. And we all know that agriculture is a big place where water management is very important. Next is agrochemical and fertilizer. So here also having a very big role to reducing the soil health quality, because till the time we are putting more and more chemical fertilizer or synthetic agrochemicals, then the soil actually losing its fertility, and it is actually turning into something very which is non supportive to the agricultural field. So how to reduce the pesticide use? Encouraging the IPM, that is the like integrated pest management, and then promoting the ITK, the old school theories at times. That is also very important to address this pest management stuff. And then how to handle safely these all these chemicals and pesticides. Then we need to train the farmer who are actually handling these things, applications, so that it should not go to the water body. The runoff should not go to the place where the human settlement is there, cattle is there, school, any college, or any public road. So there also we need to have a proper buffer zone to avoid the environmental contamination. And of course, we promote the organic alternatives. So you can see from these pictures below where people are making actually vermicompost, then bioconcoctions. Composting, actually, it definitely takes time. Some commercial implications are there, but bioconcoction is really cheap. But this will actually give a long-term usage of these things, actually will give you a very good result. And you can always check that, like maybe a small area people can do, and then they can like patch wise, and then they can check that how the soil quality, the organic matters in soil, how it is increasing. So this is something what we also talk through our code to address the overall issues under agrochemical and fertilizer management. Then biodiversity conservation. So we all know what is biodiversity. So how we conserve that biodiversity, that is very important. So you can see that habitat preservation, then making wildlife corridors, making the flora and fauna protection, and deforestation control. These are the main key focus area in a sustainability standard where we are talking about biodiversity conservation. So deforestation is one of the problem where we are actually faced in in case of small tea growers, because their area, their land, especially in Upper Assam, on those areas where the government notified forest land is there, where people are actually uprooting that and putting trees and tea plants and all those things, which is of course coming under a legal issue. So we have actually coming out, as I was talking about innovation and new applications. So we have come up with a application that is called Trace Tea Map. So with this map, actually we can get not only the geolocation, but also the area of that farm or area of that small tea growers, and we can actually confirm the land use pattern history. We can get a map, satellite map through that application, and we can compare that maybe in 2012 or 2014 onwards, that if there is any change in that pattern or not. So that is how we are trying to address these issues. And definitely flora fauna protection, wildlife control, these are the basic things that we need to adhere people who are coming under any sustainable periphery. So when people are going for these certifications, these are the few basic things that they need to adhere as a requirements. Then energy management, of course, energy is again a very important thing when we are talking about energy efficiency, renewable energy, and then carbon footprint reduction. So how to do that? Maybe performing energy audit, then to check that whether the kind of information they're getting from that energy audit, they can actually change in their practice, they can introduce new technology. Maybe, yes, there will be some commercial implication, but then it depends on how they will see that calculate the ROI. So when you are investing something, and by which time, in how many years you'll get the return, and how much is the thing. But once you do the basic things, at least you know which are the focus areas, so you can plan accordingly. And that will help you actually to reduce a good a lion's share of your investment from that in when you are practicing this thing in day-to-day life. So yes, energy management is a very important thing in a sustainability field. And last but not the least, the waste management part. So waste is something, it's like coming in everywhere. Where we are talking about soil, there also we need to do the waste management. When we are talking about water, we have to do the waste management. We are talking about biodiversity, we have to do the waste management to take care of the flora and fauna. So it is very important to do the proper classification, how to do the waste reduction, how to reuse and recycle the waste, and how to get best out of that waste, which is organic waste, and we can make composting from that. So making compost from organic waste is also a very good thing, where you can actually recycle the whole thing and reuse the organic waste. So this is overall the basic things of any sustainability standard for say. And our approach in that, we take an integrated approach, we educate people, we train them, and monitoring and evaluation, that is one of the biggest thing in our thing, that what impact we are making after doing all these things like training, education, doing the audits and all these things. What is maybe 2 years back, what was the situation? Today, what is the situation? And maybe 2-3 years down the line, what would be the situation? So doing all this monitoring and evaluating the result. And based on all this result, we must take the learning and make necessary changes, because things are evolving. Every day we are getting new things. So that is how we need to address these issues. And this is something what is very important, that why certification. So certification is basically ensuring the credibility and the trust building factor. So that can be done by third party, that can be done by the scheme owner also, depending on the scheme, like how they operates. But this will basically gain the consumer's confidence that yes, I can take this product, this is safe for me. So whether it is like in agricultural product, we are actually consuming that. So consumers' confidence is a very big thing. And for that, we cannot do the self-certification, because I will always say I'm the best. That is the human nature. So of course you need a third-party verification, like we do the sustainability reporting. So in that way, you need to do some certification by a third party who will ensure these things, that these are all in place. And yes, this is safe to consume. And of course, that there's a market differentiation to establish the competitive advantage and the brand reputation. That also something is this one section is having a certificate, second section is not having a certificate. People will tend to go to the section one because they are actually having that consumer confidence kind of thing. And end of the day, to confirm the environmental impact, social responsibility, regulatory compliance, that whether they are actually maintaining all their necessary licenses, whether they are adhering the law of the land or not, supply chain transparency, through traceability, and continuous improvement to have the get the global consistency. So in any kind of standard where we are talking about, certification is very important to assure the overall credibility of that particular standard. So yeah, thank you so much. And if there is any question, I can take it up.
Thank you, Anandita, for your presentation. I will now move on to the third speaker, Mr. Avinash Balwan Kumar. So he is the Director of Earth Food Services, and his topic will be ESG reporting in India, core and value chain assurance reporting. 1 second, Avinash ji, good afternoon. I'll just introduce you briefly and then you can go ahead with your presentation.
Sure.
So Mr. Avinash Kumar is a leading sustainability and climate change strategist who advises organizations and corporates and financial institutions on climate change strategies to fulfill India's commitment as per the Paris Agreement, NDC commitment. He is also supporting and identifying climate change risks and resilience strategies following the TCFD framework, drafting and aligning the current ESG framework with climate change and sustainable finance-related frameworks like TCFD and SFDR. He is also developing approaches, methodology, and work plans for decarbonization and carbon neutrality advisory. He is also a net zero advisory at the corporate level, following SBTA standard and guidelines. So, Mr. Avinash, I request you to go ahead with your presentation.
Yeah, thanks, sir, and very good evening to all of you. Please let me know if my slides are visible in slide mode.
You have to move it to slide mode. Yeah, yes, now it's visible.
So is it moving?
Yes, moving, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, first of all, many thanks. And I would be talking about the ESG and how the ESG process is evolving in India and why it is gaining momentum and why it is important for all the industries and why this cannot be ignored. And a few basic concepts about the India ESG regulatory framework, which is known by the name of BRSR, Business Reporting and Sustainability Reporting Responsibility. So I'm not touching upon all these points. So to begin with, I know as of now, we all knows, I think much has been talked about the greenhouse gases, sustainability. So everyone knows what is ESG. So there's, but yes, in the last couple of years, it has gained a huge momentum. And why? Because a lot of insurance companies, the government, the various stakeholders, the investors, they are asking. As of now, so in nutshell, the concept of ESG in itself is an environmental social governance. So the factors, like various factors, environment like climate change, air pollution, water pollution, biodiversity, we all, these we are measuring from last many years. In fact, in the social side, like, health and race, child labor, all is being talked about from last many years. Same is with governance, bribery, corruption, executive pays. But yes, in recent years, it has gained a momentum because nowadays gone are the days when investors or insurance company, they used to look at the financial sheet or top line, bottom line of the company. Yes, they are very much important, but now over and above the top line, bottom line, investors, they are also interested to know what these companies, manufacturing companies or big corporates, they are doing for the environment, social and governance side. So the evolution is, like in 80s, we used to say environment, health and safety. Then, 90s, we used to say triple bottom line. Then in late 2000s, it became sustainable development goals in early 2010s. Then now in 2020, we are talking about the Paris Agreement. We're talking about the sustainability issues, environmental, social governance, BRSR, all these things. So evolution of ESG, if you see, unknowingly or unknowingly, we were touching upon the concept of environmental social governance, but yes, not exactly from the nomenclature of so-called ESG or BRSR issues. So I'll be touching upon why it is important in the next few slides. So as I mentioned earlier, that gone are the days when investors, they used to look at your top line and bottom line. Now, over and above that, they need to know what exactly you are doing, how your business is aligning with environmental issues, social issues, while developing any product or while manufacturing anything. Are you taking care of environmental, or like number of employees work in your companies or in your organizations? Are you doing enough, with respect to health and safety? Are you following the proper policies as per the different laws or compliance requirement by the government? Or in terms of governance, are you following the proper ethical policies? So also traditional investment. So now the world is focusing, moving from traditional investing to investing wherein over and above the financial issues, non-financial issues are also becoming important for the companies. And they want to invest or they want to work with those companies who are aligned with environmental issues, social issues, and governance issues. And that's how, they call, yes, this company is, sustainable. They have a reasonably good top line, bottom line. More than that, the company is not destroying the environment around that. Company is following the proper protocols with respect to social issues and governance issues. ESG reporting in India. So as I mentioned earlier, ESG in last few years has become a very hot word. In fact, if I go by the current trend, I think ESG and climate change is the hottest #1 job market in the India. In last few years, a lot of people, they want to switch their job from any XYZ, sector to environmental to ESG sector or climate change, like that. So what happened in 2015, SEBI mandated top 500 companies to develop a BRR report, business responsibility reporting, as part of their annual report. And then later on in 2019, SEBI extended the requirement that top 1,000 listed companies, as per market capitalization, they need to prepare this BRR report. Then again, they further modified some regulations, and in 2021 or 2023, they came out with a mandatory BRSR reporting for top 1,000 companies for financial year 22 and 23. Then in 23 last year, they came out with another new guideline, BRSR core, which is actually a BRSR core is a subset of BRSR, which is a SEBI's regulatory standard for ESG reporting. And they said that they will launch the BRSR core in a phase-wise manner. And right now, for the current financial year, it is mandatory for top 150 companies as per market capitalization. And then from next couple of years, on coming years, the assurance will also become mandatory. Initially for 150 companies, and then for the supply chain as well. So which I will be talking about in next few slides. So this is just a framework of about what is BRSR and how it has gained a momentum from last 7-8 years. Giving an overview of BRSR. So BRSR is having main 3 components: general disclosures, management and process disclosures, and principle-wise performance. So general disclosure basically talked about the very basic thing about the company details, what product you're manufacturing, where is your operations, in which market or sectors you serve, whether you serve within India or outside India, what is your turnover rate for employees, what are your CSR details, your employees, what are your holding companies, and like all these things. Section A of BRSR reporting. Now the section B talks about the management and process disclosures, which is about the policies. So there are 2 subsections of section B: policies and management process, and then governance, leadership, oversight. So in policies and management process, you talk about what policies you have with respect to different kind of issues. It is CSR or environmental or energy or POSH or health and safety, many things. In the governance, you talk about your leadership, what is your board structure look like, what is your policies on ethics, anti-bribery policies like that. Then comes the section 3. Now section 3 is having the 9 principles, and every principle are having some mandatory clauses and some mandatory indicators or some voluntary indicators. Like say, for example, the principle 1, it talks about the business should conduct and govern themselves with integrity and in a manner that is ethical, transparent, and accountable. So in this principle, there are indicators which are mandatory, which you cannot ignore, and there are some voluntary or leadership indicators which are voluntary in natures, and that is up to you whether you want to whether you want to disclose about them or not. But fundamentally, the core principle are 9. In the section C, the principle 2 talks about the business should provide goods and services in a manner that is sustainable and safe. The third principle talks about the well-being of the employees. Fourth principle talks about the interests. The business should respect the interest of and responsive to the all its stakeholders. So business should protect the interest of stakeholders. Then it talks about the human rights. Then it talks about the protect and restoring the environment. So like that, there are 9 principles, and which talks about core fundamental issues of environmental, and govern around environmental policies, social and governance issues. Now coming to BRSR core. So as I mentioned earlier, just to differentiate, BRSR is a much detailed, so wherein you touch upon the 3 components, general disclosure policies and 9 principles. And BRSR core is basically a subset. So SEBI mandated that it has to be disclosed by 150 companies from this current year, and again it has 9 attributes. So these are 9 attributes. Earlier I talked about the 9 principles. These 9 attributes are more or less very much aligned with the 9 principles which we in the last slide I mentioned. So the attribute 1 talks about the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, greenhouse gas emissions, there are 3 scopes, 1, 2, and 3. And here in SEBI and BRSR, they mention about the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, which are direct and indirect emissions. So scope 1 are having 4 categories of stationary, mobile, fugitive, and process emissions. Process emissions are generally not applicable to all everyone. Applicable mainly to the manufacturing companies, not to the building. Then scope 2 is all about the electricity-based emissions. Then water footprinting, energy consumption, then circularity, how much waste companies generating plastic or electronic waste or biomedical waste, depending upon business to business. Something might not be applicable to one company and something might be applicable to other company. And there might be industry wherein all kinds of waste might be applicable to that particular industry. Then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 attributes talked about the employee well-being, employee safety, gender diversity, then POSH issues, prevention of sexual harassment acts, which we all follow from last many years, enabling inclusive development, wages paid to persons employed in smaller towns, job creation in smaller towns, fairness in engaging with customers and suppliers, number of days of, payments, cyber crimes, openness of business, concentration of purchase and sales done with any trading house, dealers, loans and advancements. So all these 9 attributes, if you see, they are quite aligned and segregated among the E, S, and G components of environmental social governance. Now, SEBI has also given some timelines for the disclosure and assurance, like reporting of BRSR core became mandatory for top 1,000 for 2324 financial year. So it will remain consistent for till 2026-27. But then SEBI says that reasonable level of assurance is also required for this current financial year out of 1,000 for 150 companies. Then for next financial year, it will move to 250, then 500. So by 2026-27, SEBI says that out of 1,000, everyone has to give a reasonable level of assurance. So whatever disclosure they are giving as per BRSR core, that has to be assured as per by any third party, which is having the mandate to issue the assurance. Then from next financial year, value chain disclosure. So basically the upstream side suppliers and downstream side your vendors, you will have to include those as well while going for the assurance. And then So that time, so from next financial year, the assurance will not be as such mandatory, but yes, it will be on a comply or explain basis. But yes, from 2025, it will be mandatory. And initially, the limited assurance will be mandatory for the value chain disclosures. And but at the company level for BRSR core, a reasonable level of assurance is mandatory. So this is the timeline with respect to BRSR core. How disclosure on BRSR core, disclosure assurance on BRSR core, and assurance on value chain. Now, so I have mentioned about the BRSR and BRSR core. So BRSR core is a subset of BRSR, which is much detailed, a version of BRSR having the three components, A, B, and C. And it basically covers the 9 principles of national guidelines on responsible business conduct, NGBRC. Then BRSR core is a subset. As I mentioned earlier, from this coming financial year, the BRSR core will be mandated for the assurance purpose, and then it will be moved down to supply chain and upstream side and downstream side vendors. So in summary, BRSR is a broad reporting framework, whereas BRSR core narrows down the focus to core KPIs, like 9 attributes, and it requires assurance on those 9 attributes. Now I'm talking about the 9 principles. So 9 principles of ESG reporting. Now these 9 principles, it has, you can say, everything to do with BRSR, or you can say, it is not. So don't confuse these 9 principles with respect to 9 attributes or 9 principles of BRSR reporting. These principles are required for any kind of ESG reporting, because when we talk about BRSR is an Indian-based, mandatory reporting, ESG reporting standard. But there are some international reporting standards also, like GRIs, SB, and other, TCFD, and other. So if any company wants to follow any international framework for ESG reporting, then these 6 principles would be very, very helpful. Now, first is a materiality assessment. So every company, before going to report ESG reporting, they will have to identify which issues are material for them. Identify the key material topics, identify key internal stakeholders, because your internal stakeholders are the best person who can tell you which are the key material issues, whether greenhouse gas emission is a key material issues for you, or whether water, or whether waste. So these material issue varies from company to company. Like say, for example, water might be a material issue for a company like Pepsi and Coke. But it might be a very integral issues or very key issues for a IT company. So like for a utility company, energy might be a key material issues. And then so once you identify your material factors based on your company's establishment, based on your company's business, then you can move to the next step. And as I mentioned, the material issues varies from company to company and business to business. Now, next is choose your ESG framework. BRSR, we have already talked about. It's a Indian mandated system of ESG reporting, mandated by SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. Then there are other frameworks like TCFD, GRIs, SB, GRESB, and many others. So if the company is not listed in Indian stock market, so they might not follow the SEBI requirements, and they might go ahead with GRI, or they might go ahead with SESB or other reporting standards. And accordingly, so once you identify your materiality issues, then you need to choose which framework you want to go ahead with. Like a lot of, for example, a lot of companies working in the real estate sectors like DLF or like Godrej, they might prefer to go ahead with a reporting standard like GRESB, because that is more aligned with real estate sectors. So you have to choose your ESG framework, which depends upon in which areas you are, whether you are in India or you're in Middle East or you're in South America. What is your industry, whether you are in the real estate sector, whether you're in oil and gas sectors, or whether in finance sectors, and who are your stakeholders. Sometimes your stakeholders, your investors, your government, NGOs, they might ask you to follow particular framework. So you will have to rely on your stakeholders as well. And then third is, once you identify your framework, then you should define your ESG goals and set KPIs. Like say, for example, you know where you are, but you will have to take some targets. Like, as a company, you will say, okay, I will reduce my greenhouse gas emission by 40%, by 30% by this year, or I will become carbon neutral by this year, or I will become net zero by this year, or I will start providing equal pay and benefits to, all my workers, or I will be having a gender diversity by this year, or I will improve my gender diversity ratio every year by 10%, or I will prioritize the sustainability risk, or I will ensure financial transparency in establishment, good accounting practices. I will be following a good ethical policies, integrity policies. I will not be having any close association with any political parties. So all these ESG goals you will have to define based on your internal stakeholders discussion, and then take a target. Fourth is a collection and report ESG data. So first of all, identify the source of ESG data. So ESG data might be scattered. So, in one organizations, we all know that the finance department, HR department, admin, legal, EHS, operations. So to report ESG, we would be requiring a lot of data from these different departments. So there must be a coordination, alignment among all these departments so that we can get the data well on time. Then operationalize data collection, critical for streamlined data collection. Then data standardization, convert data into standardized units. So it should not happen that one is reporting in kilogram, one is reporting in some other unit, one is reporting in joule, some other reporting in different units. So there must be consistency among the reporting units. And then set the frequency of data collection, whether HR needs to share the data with one particular single point of contact person every month or every quarter or every fortnight. So that frequency has to be set by one ESG team or ESG manager. Otherwise, data will be coming, sometime it will come on a week basis, sometime it will come on a monthly basis. And then last, but continuously analyze and evaluate the data. That data should not be having any gaps. It should not be incomplete. Otherwise, you will not be able to prepare a perfect or good ESG report. Step 5, review policies. Always be aware what is going in the market. ESG regulations and policies are being updated, every now and then. So all the organizations who are reporting, they should be well aware what's going on in the market, what is being asked by the SEBI or other regulatory, bodies, and accordingly they should always change their reporting pattern. Recently, last year, a new rule has come on CBAM, Clean Border Adjustment Mechanism. It is applicable in 6 sectors right now: iron, steel, cement, aluminium, fertilizer, electricity. And right now, the voluntary phase or the transition phase is going on. So every Indian exporter from these six sectors, they will have to provide the emission-related data to the European Unions. And I think it makes sense for all these companies whenever they are going for BRSR reporting or any other reporting as per international frameworks. So they need to mention what exactly they are doing in the CBAM compliance sector. So just be careful about what is going in the market, what is being asked by various agencies, NGOs, governments. And whenever you produce your ESG reports, don't confuse with the word net zero and carbon neutrality. Both are very different. Sometimes, while doing a lot of audits, I have witnessed that many companies wrongly used, carbon neutrality, considering the carbon neutrality is same as net zero. So carbon neutral is simply nothing. You measure your scope 1, scope 2 emissions and you try to offset them. Whereas net zero focus on measuring your emissions and before offsetting, optimize and reduce them up to the best level. 6 is customize your ESG reports. Prepare a good report following a proper framework, BRSR, ZSB, whatever you want to follow. Give a summary of E, S, and G. Many stakeholders, they don't read the entire report, so they prefer to read only the summary component. So make sure that your summary not only talks about where you are, but it also talks about where you want to go in next 5-10 years. So it shows a horizon, where do you want to go in next 5-10 years. It gives a holistic picture. Then whenever you write reports, make sure that, I have given one example that whenever you write reports, use some use very simple real life examples. Like say, for example, I have given one example, telling an average customer that in your ESG report, you're giving an example. Our green energy initiative results in a reduction of 46,000 metric tons of GHG emission. It's quite confusing. Instead of that, you can tell that thanks to our green initiative, we reduce our GHG emission as much as removing 10,000 cars from the road. So first statement wherein we are specifying that 46,000 metric tons of emissions we have saved is very absolute. So instead of giving that, you give a better example so that you open a space for, some comparison, and then you open a space for some other ways to compare benchmarking. When you say 46,000, now it can be 45,000, it can be 47,000. So you are specifying to just avoid very specific terms if possible, and focus on some benchmarking and some real example. Overview of ESG reporting. So whenever you prepare, I have summarized what exactly you need to follow when you are summarizing and how you are producing your ESG reports. First step is capacity building. Awareness is very important. You should have a very good team who talks, very good centralized team who is responsible for ESG. Then a team should do a test-based review. What are the key factors? What are the material factors in your organizations? Where you are, where do you want to go in 5 years, 10 years? There should be a proper stakeholder engagement. There should be a proper coordination within different departments of the organizations. Then actually, ESG team will have to create an ESG culture in an organization, and that one ESG team will have to align with various departments, and those various departments like HR, admin, they should be aligned with that one ESG team or one ESG centralized person. And there should be proper data collection mechanism. Then last step is report writing. So if you see, if we follow the steps of capacity building, test-based review, materiality assessments, implementation support, data collection analysis, then we will be able to produce a good report. Now what happens, once we have a report, so post ESG reporting, assurance is very important. So assurance build a trust among the stakeholders, because if you are producing a very good ESG report, now that might be a self-driven report, or you might have hired some very prestigious consultant or some good consultant to write a report for you. But unless and until your report is verified by some third party, it doesn't have a good value. So stakeholders, investors, banks, insurance companies, they trust more when you produce a ESG report and it is verified by third party against some international standards. So it's basically gives a sort of a confidence, and investors will be much more confident in investing in your company. More than that, it also, whenever a company goes for verification of data, it brings out a lot of sometimes inaccuracies, sometimes gap, inconsistency in data. So actually, when your report is produced, so through assurance, you move one step forward to improve your ESG report qualities. And third party assurance always help you with the leading compliance, like as I mentioned in case of SEBI BRSR, that from this financial year, it is from next financial year, it is going to be mandatory for the 150 companies in terms of reasonable level of assurance. And I have seen even the companies are coming forward beyond 150, and even right from this year also, many companies are going for beyond 150. They are going for reasonable level of assurance, just because they want to before the mandate becomes open to them, they want to ensure that they are fulfilling every requirement. Second is BRSR value chain disclosure and assurance. So applicability. So as per SEBI requirement, as I mentioned. So it is for 250 listed companies. And then the company should obtain limited level of assurance. Composition of value chain. It is for value chain basically. It is not for the listed company, because for the listed company the requirement is 150. For the value chain it is 250, and requirement will come from 25-26 financial year. Requirement is only limited assurance, and that point of time the framework provides a manner. So basically, a listed entity having a multiple partners in their value chain, upstream side suppliers or downstream side partners. So all the listed companies, they will have to mandatorily declare how much emissions they are getting cumulatively 75% of their purchase and sales. So up to 75%, they will be liable to assure the data from their suppliers upstream and downstream. So this is for value chain, BRSR. Then second step is communicating ESG achievements. So whenever your assurance is done, whether with respect to your company and with respect to your value chain, upstream and downstream, it is important that you communicate it to your public websites, or you communicate to the social media, because whenever you are good, it's you should also appears to be good. You should publicize your achievements. You should be very transparent about your certification, whether it is a limited or a reasonable level of assurance. And then you also communicate with your investors, with your stakeholders, and avoid avoid any kind of greenwashing in your ESG report or in ESG assurance. This is my last step. So avoid greenwashing. So there are multiple terms in greenwashing. So I will not go in detail, but yes, whatever you are claiming, you should have evidence for that particular claim. Whether if you're claiming that you're a green or you're a carbon neutral or you're eco-friendly or you are herbal in nature, so you should be having a proper evidence against that. Only then you should claim that particular thing in your report. Otherwise, you should avoid that. How ESG helps? So ESG issues are becoming materials. So I think these are the last slides. So why we should go for ESG? I think this one slide I have took from Indian stock. So there are many examples from Indian stock market. So if you see a lot of companies in last 10, 15 years, they have been sued because they were not following the proper either they were not aligned with the E issues or S issues or G issues, even without even the recent issues of Paytm. So you would have seen that the share came down drastically because they were not complying one or other policies pertaining to S or G part, not E actually. So there are many examples you will see from the stock markets where companies were not aligned with either E or S or G, and they had to face a lot of penalties. So yeah, so just a couple of slides about the Earthwood. We are the largest validation verification companies in the world. We have more than 12 accreditations. We worked across the world in more than 65 plus countries. And we work in the climate change, ESG, sustainabilities. We have 12 international accreditations. We have worked with a lot of European clients, Indian clients, a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And we have global accreditations, right from NM American to accountability standard for ESG. We have approved by United Nations and all the prestigious standards. Last year, we were ranked the world's best carbon verification company by Environmental Finance Singapore. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avinash ji, for a very eye-opening and thought-provoking presentation. We'll now move to the next speaker. So she is Suruchi Badwal, Senior Fellow TERI, and her topic will be climate change initiatives, industry, academic collaborations, and contributions. So Suruchi, welcome. I will briefly introduce you, and then you can go ahead with your presentation. So Suruchi Badwal, she leads research activities in the areas of climate change, since TERI is a pioneer in India in both energy and environment, focusing mainly on impacts, vulnerability, and adaptation assessments, works in close association with communities. Some of the key projects she has worked on include a study on vulnerability to climate change in the Indian agricultural sector, the context of economic globalization, supported by SIDA and the government of Norway. She has contributed to India's first and second national communication submitted to the UNFCCC and the World Bank, and a World Bank supported study on vulnerability to climate variability and change. And she's also assessed issues and options for adaptation. She's also listed as a UNDP regional roster as an expert on vulnerability and adaptation. So Suruchi, please go ahead with your presentation, and I request you to maintain the time limit of 15 minutes.
Sure. I thank you so much for the opportunity. I myself am actually running late for another meeting. So I'll be quick with my slides. I hope you can see them.
Yes.
Yes. So the topic assigned to me basically is on looking at climate change initiatives with regard to industry and academia collaboration and contribution. So I've just structured my slide around providing a broad overview with regards to this issue. and basically giving you some examples where we can see these collaborations basically happening.
Can you please switch to your slideshow mode?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it on the slideshow mode?
No, not yet. Please try again.
Okay. Yes. So just to start with, and possibly many of the earlier speakers must have touched on this, that climate change as such, we recognize it as a wicked problem. On one hand, we are faced with the challenge of the emissions that we see of greenhouse gases. On the other hand, because of the emissions that has happened, the concentrations of these gases have increased in the atmosphere, and they are leading to extreme impacts that basically we are observing on the other hand. So on one hand, the contributions to emissions, on the other hand, we are experiencing the impacts. We still do not understand, the nature of all changes that we are experiencing. And of course, the fact that, there are uncertainties associated with many of these projections and predictions that we make in our modeling systems. So, and the system doesn't take into account all feedback loops. And by feedback loops, I basically mean that one change in the system can cause a further positive change in the system, and one change in the system can cause a negative change in the system. So, which can basically trigger and make the nature of climate change more adverse or reduce the effects of climate change. So all those things are not very well understood. The feedback loops are not properly captured or wholly captured in the modeling systems that we have, and therefore there are uncertainties that are
Please move your
associated.
slide, madam. I think your slide is not moving.
Okay.
Okay.
I am in the second slide actually.
Yeah, the screen is showing the first slide, so please come to the second. Yeah, now it's fine.
Sure. Okay. So, so it is a wicked problem. We have issues with regard to emissions and impacts, uncertainties, and that we do not understand all the changes properly. Of course, we are looking for solutions and how to address the issue, because we realize that there's a lot at stake with regards to the impacts of climate change. Now, when we talk about the solutions, it's largely with the understanding that we would be having to reduce the overall, the emissions of GHGs, reduce our footprints, GHG footprints, and therefore we plan for mitigation. On the other hand, we also need to basically gear ourselves to understand the nature of impacts on how these changes are going to affect us and plan for adaptation. Of course, in this whole story of mitigation and adaptation and the solutions that basically we are looking for, to address climate change as a whole, the role of actors become very important. And in the role of actors, we basically see that different stakeholders will have different roles to play in the execution and implementation of, different actions or solutions. And in that context, the role of the industry as a key player in addressing these challenges that we are talking about becomes very key. So my next slide is basically on, the reason why India basically needs to be concerned with regards to looking at the solution space is that our overall emissions are quite high. We are the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions in the world today, while our per capita emissions are, comparatively lower because we have a large population. But if we were to just look at absolute emissions, we are still a growing country and our emissions are quite high, and we stand somewhere to be the third largest emitter in the world. And if we continue to grow and expand and the rate of development, if we continue to grow at that scale, possibly this emission will further increase. Therefore, there are reasons for concerns, and therefore the need of the hour for India as a country is to look at options, opportunities where we can basically reduce and follow an alternative path, which basically gives us opportunities to grow in a much greener path than what we are basically following. The main sectors which are of concern are, of course, the energy sector, the industry sector, the agriculture, forestry, land use sector, and the waste sector. In the figure, basically, you can see these are India's emissions with regard to different sectors. The largest chunk is from the energy sector, and the next is from the agriculture, of course, waste, and the industry sector also contributing. And then you see that the figure shows projects the data into the future for 2030s and 2050s, where we basically see how these emissions are going to increase if we continue to grow, considering the current policies and plans that India has in place with regards to following a greener path. We are basically not in alignment with the world to comply with the 1.5 degree change in temperatures that the world is basically asking for. So ideally, we fall way short with regards to where we need to be with regards to our emission levels, and therefore you can look at it as a challenge or you can look at it as an opportunity, and that opportunity creates the space for collaboration. So on the mitigation side, of course, how is it that basically we see the industry can play a role? We do need to, and in the previous speaker was talking about inventories and scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, the role of having an inventory in place, and the inventory can be developed at various levels. So at the national level, of course, India has its own inventory developed. There are certain states at the subnational scales developing their own inventories to understand what are their emissions profile, and basis understanding the emissions profile, what are the mitigation actions and the solutions or that one needs to basically focus on. And it can, these inventories can be developed at the state level, at the national level, but also at the industry level, where possibly you want to understand what are the different areas from which emissions are basically emerging, and what kind of interventions can be basically taken forward or considered at that unit level to be able to reduce your footprint and contribute to reductions. And of course, it somewhere links to your ESG reporting that was being talked about by the previous speaker. Going to the next slide, this is basically on the scope of the inventories, looking at different sectors, different gases, which includes carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, HFCs, PFCs, SF6, so different kind of gases that are now being reported at the country level, but also can be basically taken account of at the industry unit level with regards to your emissions. And the reason I'm discussing mitigation is because of looking at the academia and the industry collaboration in the process of looking at where may be the opportunities where both these entities can come together. Of course, there are different guidelines for carrying out these assessments. We follow the IPCC guidelines, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change guidelines. Apart from that, there are other tools, including the CDP, the GHGP, which was being discussed in the previous presentation. 1986, we had the guidelines out, which were revised in 2006, and with supplements that were basically added to it in 2019. So these guidelines form the baseline by way of which all assessments are done and data collected, for different entities who are interested with regards to developing their inventories and their understand the GHG emissions profile.
Can you switch to the slide mode, please?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going back and forth because with the slide mode, the slides are not moving.
Okay, fine, no issue.
Yeah. So the benefits of the GHG inventory, of course, once you understand what your emissions are, it helps you set mitigation goals and targets. It supports the development of an action plan for GHG reduction. It gives you an idea of the costs that you may have to incur for the various interventions that you're basically deciding to take forward. It highlights sectors, sources, activities, where emissions are happening, where you need to basically focus with regards to implementation. And it helps in tracking progress over a period of time on how, if you are taking forward certain interventions, are those emissions basically reducing. And of course, it provides the evidence which can be used by countries for national compliance. It can be used by the industry for incentives, if the countries are setting up incentives for GHG reductions, etc. In a future context, if regulation basically is brought in place. This is basically to the same thing with regard to the benefits. It tracks progress, it helps in tracking emission sources, the plan, etc. And and giving a context. And of course, the industry in this context, there are BRSR guidelines, there are regulation and measures that exist in India, basis which industry needs to report back under the ESG that was being discussed before. And within the scope of the ESG, there are certain categories that have clearly been outlined with regard to GHGs, where industries basically need to report. In certain cases, it is mandatory. In certain cases, it is voluntary. But with time, we expect that these are going to become more stringent for the industry, and therefore one needs to basically be careful with regards to collection of the data and being aware of the fact on how their industry is basically performing and where are the opportunities for any respective industry or unit with regards to GHG reductions and basically reporting on those interventions and reductions and taking any incentive that possibly the regulation in that country can provide. So this is basically to say the BRSR has developed frameworks, reporting frameworks, which basically aims to set a unified, transparent reporting format for companies that need to be adopted with regards to these areas. And of course, the BRSR works on 9 principles, and one of the principles basically focusing on promoting human rights, inclusive growth and equitable development and sustainability, which basically covers this whole area of reporting on the GHG emissions from the industry. It's now mandatory from 2023 for all top 1,000 listed companies to basically report on these areas. And this is one of the core attributes I've just picked out with regards to the climate change context. All industries under the ESG have to report on the greenhouse gas footprint. They have to report on the methodology that has been adopted, the different gases that have basically been listed. So you have carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbons, different gases, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, which is being discussed also now with the industry. And ideally, the industry has to provide all back-end data with regards to, their area of activities, contributions to GHG emissions, and interventions that they have basically considered for reducing their footprints. Apart from that, there's an additional component that has been added for industry reporting, which is related to risk. Now, risk can be very broadly classified. Now, in the context of climate risk, if you see this definition that has been added in the BRSR general disclosure section, is basically with regards to classifying the risk and the opportunity as environment or social and provide its description. For example, risk arising from climate change can include an impact on the overall operations of the industry, maybe an impact on the worker health, or direct impact on the value chain or demand for products or services. And therefore, the industry is also required to assess the risk to its own business and its value chain and its people, and report on it in the ESG reporting process that they are supposed to basically do. Of course, there are different standards that are being followed by the industry. I'm sorry, I'm not going on slide mode because the slides are not changing. This was the previous slide on core attributes of reporting that exist in the ESG reporting process right now. There are standards of reporting. We do have the ISO 14064 series, 14064-1 to 14064-3, which have been developed, which basically provide the standards by way of doing GHG accounting and verification, which can be basically looked at in detail. these are basically being part 1, part 2, part 3 is being scoped out at different levels, at the organizational level, at the projects level, and basically for validation and verification, and different standards basically set for greenhouse gases accounting and management that have basically been provided. Now, where are the opportunities? And I'm coming to the topic that was assigned to me. Given the context that I just laid, that where the industry faces the challenges, one, where it has to report on its emissions, improve on its technologies and interventions that it's doing to reduce its carbon footprint, its GHG footprint. On the other hand, also address the risks to itself and its value chain with regards to its delivery. Ideally, the industry has to be on its toes with regards to identifying technologies, best practices with regards to which it needs to change the way it has been operating. And to be able to do that, possibly, the mode of looking at collaborations with different entities in this initiative basically makes complete sense. And therefore, the whole discussion around looking at industry academia research collaboration, which provides opportunities to organizations wherein a blend of practical expertise and academic rigor can be brought together. So industrial professionals basically can contribute to first-hand knowledge of what the industry needs, while universities and research-based organizations can talk, through the research that is important in the context of what the industry has highlighted, provide them with actionable insights and cutting-edge theories that can be used for them to basically change the ways they have been operating vis-a-vis, look at new technologies and practices that can be adopted, which may help the industry in terms of reducing their footprints. Therefore, it is basically recognized, if you look at such a collaboration, that it is recognized that it is of mutual benefit to both the industry on one hand and the academia on the other hand, because possibly the academia can get a constant source and flow of resources to support its research, and on the other hand, the industry would be able to benefit from that research and scale that up with regards to implementation. So therefore, the need to basically see opportunities with the industry along with the academia to nurture both interventions and implementation for GHG mitigation and adaptation, basis which we can address the climate change challenge. In case of India, we have found that there are limitations that exist, and there are very few examples that one can actually fall on to talk about a healthy industry academia collaboration that has happened in these areas, and the reasons here basically outlining that there are IP related issues which possibly have restricted the industry and the academia to come together. We have seen differences with regards to the focus that the academia have versus what the industry and the pace at which the industry is basically working. Therefore, acting as a limitation in getting the industry and the academia together. We've seen gaps in skills, possibly in the areas where the industry wants the academia to support them, and of course, lack of collaborative frameworks, incentives for the industry and the academia to come together. And these basically pose challenges with regards to setting up a collaborative framework where, in the context of India, where we see, both players can come together and have, mutually benefit from the existence of each other. This is an example which I've just picked from the literature to show you how other developed countries and developed economies and their investments in terms of spendings on R&D, and which entity is basically spending majorly on R&D. You can see, if you pick up the example of US, UK, Korea, pick up Japan, and I'm going to France and Canada. The share of the resources put in by the government is limited compared to the share which is basically put in these countries by businesses. 72.6% in the US, 69.1% in UK. Now, if you were to pick up the Indian example, it's entirely the opposite. So the R&D, the spending on R&D in India, a large fraction is by the government, comparatively very smaller role of the industry and businesses. And I think this is a model that we need to change because ideally this model that we have right now, where the investment of the government is large compared to the industry, is not leading to development of technology and innovation that the industry needs and what the academia or research institutions can provide. So there's a clear mismatch that we can see, at least in the Indian context, compared to all the other countries and the direction in which they are basically moving with regards to development of technology, innovation, and implementation. So there are opportunities, of course, to collaborate, opportunities to develop technology, innovate, have patents and licensing agreements, leading to industry university collaboration, leading to development of knowledge and exchange of knowledge, and of course also increasing competitiveness in the world. So there are clear opportunities that one can basically capitalize on, and therefore the country can think about on how to strengthen this whole aspect. This is with regards to India's spend on R&D compared to the other countries. It's $65.2 billion compared to many other countries. Of course, the other countries are all developed countries. They have larger shares. But still, we could relate it to the previous figure where while India is spending this much on R&D, we can see it's the government which is spending the largest share, and we still don't see the industry and the businesses basically getting into that model of engaging with academia and industry, where they can also, if they were to contribute, it could be a far larger share that basically we can see with regards to development of technology and innovation in these areas. And of course, while the spend on R&D is, we are 7th largest globally in terms of spending, but as a share of the GDP, I think it's the lowest that we can see that we are doing on R&D. And therefore, the need of the hour is basically to increase that 0.65% that we are seeing in India, that is going share of GDP for R&D development, to 1.5 to 3% at least. The role of the private sector with regards to their contributions to foster these collaborations with academia and research institutions, because that gives an opportunity to develop, innovate, and jointly publish, patent, and lead certain areas with regards to setting an example. I'm giving examples, and why I am basically presenting the case is there are examples, and when you go to other countries and see how they are working and innovating and developing technology, and these are examples largely international, you see how this collaboration between the industry and academia is helping research institutions, is helping in innovating and building new technology. This is example from Australia, Deakin partnerships, Deakin University and its partnerships with the government and the industry, where largely the model is where investments are being done by the government, and the industry is basically boosting the technology and innovation in those core areas. There are multi-million-dollar projects that have basically been announced by the government, invested in a university setup, and the university setup has developed that infrastructure and taken the projects from the industry to help cater to the industrial needs and develop the technology and innovate the technology according to the industrial needs. And the two examples that I'm giving of this partnership that we saw in Deakin University while we visited them also, just a few weeks back. One is of the battery hub system that Deakin University has set up basically to test and advance battery design fabrication for the industry, basis which if these batteries and battery components basically get advanced, possibly it benefits the industry with regards to their production that happens. So whether we are talking about the automotive industry or other industries where batteries are massively used, and the type of batteries that are basically now being used, of course, we are talking about lithium-based batteries, but shifting to sodium-based batteries as well, because we know lithium is a scarce resource. Kind of research being done at the university, at the academia level, basically providing the baseline for for scaling up and innovation in the industry. So this is an example of how Deakin University has set up a battery hub facility and research for advanced battery design and fabrication that they've done with the help of the government and the industry on the other hand. And the research that's carried out in this battery hub is basically feeding directly into the industry, and the industry is taking the benefits of the research being carried out at this center. The other example is of this hydrogen cell that has been established by Deakin University. This is basically developed with the idea to inform industry and become a regional hub in advancing clean energy transition. The idea is to create a hydrogen research and education capability with the collaboration of industry, government, and community partners. We had visited this facility. The objective of this facility is basically to test hydrogen technologies at scale, build momentum for the region to capitalize on the global demand for hydrogen, and support the local economy to attract further investments. And once the technologies are proven at the lab scale that has been established at Deakin University, possibly the industry picks it up from there and sees how to scale it up and take it up with other stakeholders and be a global player in this technology and in this area of work. The other example is from the US. This is from the Michigan State University, where they have set up a Michigan State University Innovation Center, basically talking about commercialization, industry partnerships, and entrepreneurship development. The Innovation Center, basically the objective of the Innovation Center is basically to create partnerships that develop economic value from research and creativity that can be basically capitalized by the industry through development of products and services. So this is another example from the US, and all research happening in universities in the US, in Australia that we've seen basically cater to the industry. And those examples, unfortunately, we do not see in the Indian context. This is another example of General Motors and Delphi Technologies donating their patents to Michigan State University, basically for a period of time to see how the university can convert them into successful licenses to companies and businesses to scale and convert them into applicable products. So there are examples that you see all over the world where basically you see the industry and the academia and the research institutions coming together in a symbiotic arrangement where one can benefit from the other. And while the academia and the research institutions would be able to get constant flow of resources and support for their own existence and the work that they're doing. On the other hand, industry benefiting from the technology and the work that is being carried out by the academia and research institutions. So of course, the way forward indicating one could look at short-term collaborations where institutions with minimal research facilities can be given very targeted assignments along with the industry to foster a collaboration, long-term research collaborations on long-term agendas that basically industry and academia can basically consider to take forward. Of course, the relationship has to be a symbiotic relationship where both ends basically benefit from the arrangement. There's a reason to build trust across, and have open dialogues, clearly with regards to once the innovation happens and technology is developed with regards to the patenting and the intellectual property rights, etc., and disclosure, non-disclosure agreements, and sensitivity, non-sensitivity of information. And I think that is possible, but possibly we need to create those environments, creating an enabling environment to foster these collaborations, and of course, increasing the spending on R&D and innovation, and the role of the industry, wherein the industry can basically enhance their contributions to setting up these collaborative relationships. And with that, I would just close my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suruchi, for enlightening us on how industry and academic institutions are collaborating, especially like your organization, TERI, to tackle climate change. We now move to the next and last speaker in this group. So he is Mr. Sarthak Gupta, and he is founder of Novo Earth and IIT Kanpur. It's an incubated startup. Okay. So before you share your screen, Mr. Sarthak Gupta, we will just briefly introduce you and then you can go ahead with your presentation.
Sure.
Yeah. So Sarthak Gupta is the innovative entrepreneur and a sustainability advocate leading Novo Earth, which is a brand under the Environ Industries Trading Private Limited. Under his visionary leadership, Novo Earth has developed Novo Polymer. So this is a groundbreaking product that seamlessly integrates with existing plastic processing methods, which is an eco-friendly alternative to conventional plastics. So this will be very useful when we look at plastic waste management. Sarthak's dedication to sustainability and innovation was positioned Novo Earth as a leader in sustainable technology, securing significant industry attention and pivotal contracts. His commitment to enhancing resource efficiency and promoting circularity underscores his vision for a cleaner, greener future. So it's also interesting to have a startup person here from IIT Kanpur and a young entrepreneur. And he will talk on the topic, startups' contribution to climate change, initiatives through innovative solutions, solutions, climate change, clean tech, and energy management. Welcome, Sarthak Gupta, and over to you, and request you to confine your presentation to 15 minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sangameshwar, for the very warm introduction. And my topic for today is how startups are contributing towards fighting climate change, how they are bringing in innovation. So the best thing, firstly, I decided let's give a general overview how all startups are working. But then I thought it would be much better than what our journey has been like and how we are contributing to this problem and how we are trying to solve the problem. So Novo Earth as an organization is trying to solve the problem of single-use plastic pollution, which is probably one of the biggest problems that humanity is facing in the century in terms of pollution. So globally, plastic, the invention of plastic in the 1950s was one of the biggest achievement that scientists could have achieved in the FMCG sector. It created a boom. And because of the invention of plastic and the growth of plastic, we could see this products going into the market very conveniently, and even the sachet cultures in India are the result of the plastic boom. But since the 1950 until 2020, we are in 2024, the global annual production of plastic has reached to approximately 450 million tons, which is huge. And if we dive deep into this problem, we can see that plastic as a material is not a problem. Rather, the end of life of plastic is the main problem that we are facing. If we look at the data across the globe, we can see that majority of the plastic is either getting dumped in landfill, is getting mismanaged, which ends up in our ocean, or we are incinerating it to generate some energy, some form of energy, which are creating greenhouse emissions. Only 9% of the global plastic production, global plastic is getting recycled, which is a huge problem. Comparatively, in India, we are recycling more than the global average, which is something to be proud of. But if you look at the mismanaged plastic, India is in that sector, India is again a leader, which is not something to be proud of. So, but when we started this company, when the group of founders, when we all collected together and we thought, okay, how to solve this problem, then we figured out that packaging sector is one sector where a lot of plastic is getting consumed. The majority of the plastic that we are consuming is consumed in the packaging sector. And if you look at the end of life of the product, the total life cycle of the product, packaging sector has the minimum life cycle. So whatever we are using in the packaging sector, it's basically used for one or twice and then it's thrown away, which that is what is end up in our landfills, our oceans, our different ecosystems, and are polluting our different ecosystems. So this was one problem that we thought, okay, now we have to do something about the plastic pollution. And in that plastic pollution specifically, we have to see how we can change the packaging sector altogether itself. Then came a solution that, okay, now what the possible solution is, if we can develop a type of a packaging material which almost feels like plastic, looks like plastic, behaves like plastic, but does not have the adverse effect of plastic. That is, it is not there in the environment for the next 500 years. What if after its usage, it mixes with the environment, it naturally decomposes? Then we came across another problem, which is animal slaughtering. And if you look at this data, globally, more than 70 billion chicken are slaughtered. And this data is from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So this is pretty concrete data. And looking at this data, we can it is a well-established fact that approximately 6% of the total poultry weight constitutes of the feather waste. So we can see where this trend is going. We can see that there is a waste which is being generated, which is almost 8 billion tons. That is 20 times more than the plastic we are producing and is getting wasted. Sorry. So as an organization, we found out that feathers contain keratin protein. Keratin protein is a natural polymer, which is hydrophobic in nature. It's very strong. It's very durable. It's tear resistant. We thought, why not use this natural source to make polymers, which can be then used to make packaging films or other single-use plastic items. So after 5 years of R&D and multiple trials and errors, we successfully have created a polymer which is made from this abundant free resource and is 100% compostable. It's easily scalable, it's economically viable, it's easy to adapt. To show you the final product, it looks something like this. The two images that you see on your screen, it's the final prototype that we have created. And we'll be the first organization in this financial year itself. There will be the launch of the product in the market, and we'll be the first organization or a company across the globe who will be able to actually solve this problem and bring out a product which is 100% compostable. So as an organization, in the previous sessions, we have heard about the SDGs, ESGs, and all those things. So as a responsible organization, we are also following, and we are also aligning with the 6 of the UN SDGs. And we are contributing towards a decent work and economic growth. We are contributing towards industry innovation and infrastructure, responsible consumption of production, life below water, life on land, and partnership for the goals. So as an organization, we partnered with multiple organizations, both government and private and academia, to bring out this product into the market. And once this is there, the global impact of the product will be huge. For per metric ton of monopolymer use, we will be able to save approximately 4.2 metric tons of carbon emission, which is twice of what we could save from recycling, and almost 1.75 times if we would have used paper instead of this plastic product. So that's it from my side. I won't be taking a long, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarthak, very much. I think we are running almost 15-20 minutes behind schedule. So any questions they can send to our CCC and we will forward it to you.
Definitely.
So thank you so much for a very interesting presentation, and you're actually doing something by converting these chicken feathers into biodegradable polymers.
Yeah, so this is one of the product that we are doing. There are multiple products under R&D that we are working on, and this was what very interesting. So I thought, let's introduce this to the board.
Okay, all the very best to you. Excellent startup initiative. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. I now close the first technical session. Thanks very much to all the 5 speakers for their excellent presentations, and thanks to the participants for a patient hearing. So I'll now hand over to my friend Anurag Gupta ji to take over as host for the second technical session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangreshwar. So we are going to start the next session. Basically, it is a session 2 related to Green Credits Program, GHG emissions, waste management, misleading green ads, and green labels. So our first speaker is Mr. Swapan Mehra, founder, Ayora Ecological Solutions. He is having a very wide exposure into the environmental finance. He has developed and implemented the innovative policies strategy project across the various domains such as forestry and biodiversity, conservation, valuation of the ecosystem services, renewable energy, waste management, and he has also gained a sound knowledge and expertise into the international carbon credit trading and markets, as well as into the green bonds and other financial mechanisms. As a founder of Aura Ecological Solution, he has a mission-driven advisory project development group.
Hello.
He has enabled sustainable development in India beyond by the promoting the ecosystem conversion.
Thank you, sir.
Right. So you are there, Mr. Mehra?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Great. So thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you so much,
And
sir. Thank you, sir. I'll save your number. Yes, sir.
I think Sarthak, if you could
Yes,
mute
sir.
your mic.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much again. And it's lovely to greet you all on this World Environment Day when the main theme is related to land degradation. So very quick background about myself. Like Anuragji mentioned, I've been active in the areas of nature-based solution, nature conservation, and environmental finance for the last 15 years. My organization has developed about 150 conservation projects covering about 12 million hectares, supported 7 countries in developing national level policies related to nature and climate, including India, where we developed the National Land Restoration Action Plan, the roadmap for India's National Paris Agreement goal, and the National Red Plus policy. Most recently, I was helping coordinate the Green Credit Committee, technical committee for the Ministry of Environment Forest, where we came up with the concept, methodology, and standard for the green credits. I will very quickly share my screen and show 3-4 slides. I'll try and help make up for some of the time that we've lost by being brief. So just allow me a minute. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah.
Fantastic. So I think we are all aware of carbon finance and carbon credits. My organization also develops a lot of carbon finance projects for nature. Carbon finance and carbon credits hinge on this global principle of climate change being a global commons, where if one country, there is a party which is emitting, it can offload or outsource or buy from another company in another country which is sequestering. So the idea is that overall the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere must be reduced, but it doesn't need to be at the same place because the carbon dioxide levels travel around the world. So the idea is that if I do a forestry project in India and there is a company in America, let's say Microsoft, which is emitting a lot, they can buy credits from me and show them in their registry as carbon savings. That's the principle of carbon credits. India, in response to the clarion call from the Prime Minister to actually launch a market instrument which goes beyond carbon, has developed a new instrument called green credits. Now, let me explain a little bit about this idea of beyond carbon. As we all know, our ecosystems offer various ecosystem services. Your trees that you grow don't only offer carbon, they also save water, they clean air, so on and so forth. So the idea of green credits is as follows. First and foremost, the idea of green credit is to reward more than just one function of your ecosystem. If you are saving water, it should not only be quantities of water, it should be the resilience it brings, so on and so forth. The second idea is that the carbon market is very difficult to participate in for individuals, for individual communities, for farmers. There is a very high transaction cost. If you grow trees below 2000 hectares, you can't even get a project registered. So the idea of green credit is to bring an environmental market and make it easily accessible to everybody. So as you all know, India unveiled the very ambitious mission Life at COP26, in which our Prime Minister said that one of the key ways to combat climate change is to have a planet-friendly lifestyle, to change the way we consume. As an extension of Mission Life, India also decided to launch a trading mechanism where individuals, small companies, we can all trade our environmental actions with each other. That is the idea of green credits. So what is a green credit? A green credit is a market mechanism that allows people to trade environmentally positive actions and to bring financial incentive to those individuals and those organizations who are taking these actions. The idea of green credit is to give rewards to a wide-ranging activity set, including not only tree planting. So as you see, a lot of these activities are actually not activities that are reducing emissions, but are overall good for the environment. Tree plantation, rainwater harvesting, waste management, drip irrigation, organic farming, bio-CNG, waste to energy, and wastewater treatment. This is the overall set of activities. The plan is that for anybody doing any one of these activities, a unit will be created. So let's say if you plant one tree, you get 1 green credit. If you create a water sequestration system for X cubic meter, you get 1 green credit. If you do organic farming in 1 acre, you get 1 green credit. To create a unit which is equivalent across all these actions and which can then be traded on an online platform. One, by companies who have targets, but second, also by people who don't have targets, who want to contribute to better environment, but can't because, living in a city, it's not possible for you to do organic farming or tree plantation. So you just support voluntary activities. So this is one other unique thing. So 2 unique things. One is recognizing not only carbon, but broad environmental action. And the second is allowing voluntary participation by anybody who would like to participate. In order to do so, administration system has been created for green credit and a registry has been created. That registry is available at this link. You can go and see what's happening. There is an online registry. At the moment, the first green credit scheme has been piloted, which is only tree plantation and forest restoration. The others are still under development, and we are hoping that now with the new government in our committee can expedite and push for the others to be implemented also. In tree plantation, there are 2 categories. One is on private community owned land, and the second is government land. As of now, the ministry has only activated the government owned land category. So what is happening there is that forest departments across the country have been asked to upload details of degraded areas within their catchment. This is a registry, it's available online. Any investor who would like to invest in restoration and get green credits can go and select any parcel that they like in any state of India, pay the amount to the forest department. From second year onwards, green credits will start accruing in their account. 1 green credit is issued per tree. In water stressed areas like parts of Rajasthan, it becomes 1.2. And then there is third party and remote verification. One of the other salient features that we have tried to put in the green credit rules is to also make the verification much more cost effective for smaller projects. For large projects, we are going to retain the carbon type verification. But for smaller projects, let's say there is a landowner who has just 10 hectares. It's not viable for them to hire a third party. So we have allowed self-certification and remote sensing based verification. So this is the green credit model right now. This is where it is as of now. And then the idea is that this becomes a template for various other countries, societies to create instruments which not only focus on carbon, but on overall greening. And then to expand this to all the other sectors that were envisioned in the initial Gazette notification that we brought out about a year ago. I'll actually stop there. Can you hear me? Sorry. I feel that my screen got unshared or no? Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So this is a brief about the green credit scheme as of now, and hoping that it expands in its value and becomes a true replacement for carbon for those who can't access carbon. There is a question on the monetary value for 1 green credit. Yes, it is standardized, and the value of each green credit is set at a certain rupees, which is equal to the cost of actually planting trees. And then green credit is issued annually. It was decided that the baseline cost will be 10 rupees and then trading will allow it to scale up, but the trading hasn't started yet. So let us see when that happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sapan. Our next speaker is Mr. Tamil Manian on responsible handling on pharma waste. So let me introduce Mr. Tamil Manian. He has a 25 years of experience in pharmaceutical healthcare industry and 9 years of experience in the sustainability solution like bio-CNG in renewable energy. He has established sustainable toilets, working on the pharmaceutical pollution reduction to regenerate biodiversity and to reduce antimicrobial resistance. Mr.
Yes, sir. And
Yeah,
good
can you
evening to all
share?
of you.
Yeah,
Sir, already I sent the presentation. I think somebody else is sharing it. Or you want me to share it? I've sent it to you.
yeah. Is it visible?
Yes.
Full
So
screen,
I'll ask,
full screen mode, Anurag ji.
yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Anurag ji, for giving this opportunity to be the part of this celebration of this World Environment Day. And thanks for the introduction. As you already introduced, maybe you can go to the next slide. These are the few activities which you have been involved. And this is I'm getting into a new core area, especially to create a sustainable and responsible pharmaceutical waste management, which is a very, very unique. I think not many have touched upon this as far as India is concerned as of today. As we all know, the indiscriminate disposal of unused and expired drugs poses a challenge to human, animal, and environment. And today, the entire globe talks about the One Health approach to combat antimicrobial resistance. Next slide. So, as we all know, that antimicrobial resistance is a silent pandemic, and it has got the burden in global as well as in India is very high. And the recent study, which has come out very recently last week, has indicated that AMR is on track to lower the global life expectancy by an average of 1.8 years. So it's a very threatening, and I'm sure that all of us would be, most of us, or rather, will be using some or the other way of pharmaceutical in our life. But none of us know, including me, how to dispose it off when it gets expired and when I'm not going to use the product. It's not only with the individuals, but also with the industry. There's a big challenge, which we are trying to address that issue. Next, please. As you can observe, like the WHO has given a people-centered approach to address the antimicrobial resistance by managing the disposal, the indiscriminate usage, as well as the indiscriminate disposal of the antibiotics, and also in particular, and also the pharmaceutical waste. As it has been highlighted, the pillar one says that the universal access to waste and waste management to mitigate AMR is very, 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 very critical. See, rather than I am talking, I would like to take you all for a small video, which is just about 3 minutes. Rather than me explaining, everything has been explained over there. So I request your patient listening for that. It's more of a awareness creating first, because this is an area where we have to create an awareness first. We are only into that stage first. The first stage is to create the awareness. So please, you can play the video for that. Opening, sir. Anurag ji.
Yeah,
Test opening. Or you can leave it, sir. No issues.
is it working?
No, it's not working. Okay, leave it. If it's not opening, leave it. No issues, sir. Next slide, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. So considering the importance of this, so we will like to get one solution with the with the multiple positive impacts on the pharmaceutical pollution, soil pollution, water pollution, agricultural impacts, antimicrobial resistance, and we also want to convey or discuss in the group of this eminent group. Like as of today, we don't have a data-based waste management system. Nobody knows that what is getting wasted, and we would like to go for a data-based waste management system, especially for pharmaceutical, as the impacts are different when compared with the other waste. Having worked in the solid waste management like bio-CNG, biogas, and if you see the impacts, as I was discussing in the beginning of my discussion, the impact of the pharmaceutical waste is something quite different. It directly affects us, and not only us, but also the animals and also the environment. And this would be the first of its kind in the industry-specific waste management we would like to recommend. And we would like to go for a new scientific destruction, which is not the conventional incinerators which has been used, which we have been discussing with the technology partners. So once we get into the place, we will also bring the technology. And next slide, sir. So our idea is to establish the responsible and sustainable pharmaceutical waste management facility for the first time in the country. As some of us would have been knowing that there is a biomedical waste management facility which is available in almost all parts of the country, but that's not matching to the total population what we have. For example, for the entire Chennai city, we have got one. You take any metro cities, we have got only one. Considering the population of close to about 70-80 lakh population, we have got only one. And consider the strength of the hospitals, it is inadequate and it is improper. And this is where we want to make a specialized industry-specific pharmaceutical waste management facility to address the other health results of the pharma waste. Next slide. So how are we going to do it? By promoting sustainable practices in pharmaceutical waste management. And we will also like to address the recycling possibilities of pharmaceutical waste, especially as my previous speaker was talking about the packaging, like which has constituted major. So we can do something on the recycling of the pharmaceutical packaging. And we would like to do some new technology to manage the pharmaceutical waste per se. And as I was telling you in the beginning, education program is very, very important. It is, not only the issue with the public like us, but also with the industries. We have got a huge number of pharmaceutical marketing companies which are there in India, which nobody knows about what they are doing and how much the waste is getting managed. And we will also like to contribute to the global antimicrobial resistance efforts collectively. Next slide, sir. Just a glimpse of it. I'm just sharing this. See, if you see, there are about close to 10,000 manufacturers plus in all India, and we have got about 1,200 in Tamil Nadu. And marketing companies, when we talk about, there are small marketing companies which are there, which is omnipresent in the entire India. And the Indian market is totally different. It's very complex. And though we have got an excellent system, but the small mushroom marketing companies are there with micro and small companies are available. So these companies are finding it difficult to manage their expired or unused medicines when it comes returns from the market. So this, unfortunately, since they don't have any other facility or how to tackle this waste management, most of these are getting into the landfill. So we all know the importance and the problem when it goes to the landfills. The first and the foremost people who are getting affected is the health workers. When they handle the solid waste in the MSWs, MSWs, they are the first people who are getting exposed to all kinds of this impacts of the pharmaceutical thing. Though we have been we are talking about the wash, clean wash, all those things, but still the importance which is being given to the pharmaceutical waste management in India is very, 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 very. So I request this and I take this opportunity. That's the reason which I have been in the program right from the beginning to understand. To the people who are working in the other side of it, the reporting, all those things, the GSE reporting. But we are in this side to give a solution for the problem. Maybe people like you can support us to take it forward. And I request you to collectively work on this major problem in combating the antimicrobial resistance. Next slide. And this is just to engage the stakeholders for project success. We like to collaborate with the healthcare providers, regulators, especially we are working with the Department of Health and Department of Environment. And also we would like to work with the community organizations like you to reach out to the common people to talk about the importance of the responsible waste management. And we are also planning to get aligned with the manufacturers and also the marketing companies in the waste disposal solution and building public support and awareness through communication strategies. Next. So this is the strategic vision for pharmaceutical waste management we have got. Like we would like to have a centralized waste management facility because and also the sustainable waste management practices and also the stakeholder engagement. As I was telling you, we would like to be the first player in creating this. We would like to establish these kind of facility management centers throughout the country. In fact, at least we would like to have one such facility in all the states so that all pharmaceutical expired or unused medicines from the channel, I mean, I'm talking about the trade channel, can be collected and it can be managed. That is our first strategy. Then we would like to get into the next level of getting into the consumers or the common man. We have to educate them. So we have to line up with a lot of agencies to get this message to get down the line and along with the government and also the other stakeholders. So this is a very, very innovative, unique approach what we have taken up. And we are looking for the first and the foremost, as I was telling you, this session is I am taking it only to make an awareness. So my request that please people who have been participating in this, please talk out to another 10 people about this so that we can create some awareness in the environment. And this is some of the team. Considering the importance of this, we are able to find an excellent team, which is the advisors are like Mr. V.K. Subraj, Former Secretary of India, Tamil Nadu, and also the Former Health Secretary of Tamil Nadu, and also the Secretary to the Government of India for Pharmaceuticals. And from trade, we have got Mr. Jay Siran, we have from Pollution Control Board, we have got Mr. Karthi, and we have got Dr. Abdul Ghafoor. He's been working in the AMR for the past 15 years. And he is the person who brought the first declaration for AMR from India, which has been well-renowned declaration, which has been accepted and followed globally also. So with this, like we are also, by doing this, we are also going to align with some of the SDG goals. Next slide. Wow. So these are the sustainable SDG goals, which will also be aligned with our approach of managing the pharmaceutical waste responsibly and sustainably. So thank you very much. Any queries? I'm willing to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Manian. Thank you
Yeah.
very much giving us the entire information on how to responsibly handle the pharma waste. Before that, I was not aware actually how it can happen and what is the basically the size of it. Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, I hope Ms. Manisha Kapoor is there.
Actually, she's just posted a message that she has to leave. But just look at the chat. I think she has to leave by 5:30. She's not here, I guess. So maybe we'll move to the next speaker. Yeah.
Yeah. Is Mr. Atish Sheikh available?
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Atish.
Yes, sir.
Let me introduce you. Basically, you are a climate change expert, project management, looking after the Indian carbon market and Bureau of Energy Efficiency. Atiq is having a professional experience of 10 years, and he has expertise into the field of energy and environment. He is currently working with PwC India as a sustainability manager, project management unit, Indian carbon market, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. He has executed more than 10 life cycle assessment studies in the sector of cement, glass, chemical, paper, and cradle to cradle as well as credit to gate. So basically, Atik, your
Yes, sir, I'm sharing the screen, sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
you can please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sir, if anybody can confirm if they can view my presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. So a very good evening to all the members, and thank you for the opportunity to present on the work which we are doing as part of Bureau of Energy Efficiency on the Indian carbon market. Mr. Saurabh Didi could not participate, so on his behalf, I am presenting on the Indian carbon market today, sir. Now, if you will see, the government of India has already committed to ambitious climate action goals, where we are talking about reducing the emission intensity by 45%, installing the renewable energy. But all this will require a lot of investment and a lot of climate finance, as Swapan sir was also mentioning. To this, there is a need for carbon market, because as we move on this NDC journey, the climate action targets for India as well as for different industries will have to be revised upwards as we move forward. And at the same time, we have to identify new mitigation opportunities, because as we want to achieve new targets. And also, if we want to get a good investment in different clean technology and others, we will require investments, and carbon market is one of the ways to attract those finance. Now, if you will see from a carbon market perspective, there are two types of carbon pricing instrument. One is a compliance and second is a voluntary mechanism. Under the compliance mechanism, usually the government will set the emission targets and then the industries have to comply with it. And if you are not able to comply, you buy the excess certificate from the market, or if you are overachieving the target, you need to pay. At the same time, the sectors like agriculture, waste sector, they can also register their projects under the voluntary mechanism if they are implementing any particular project and earn the carbon credits out of it. And then this carbon credits can be sold in the market, and the revenue or the revenue generated from it can act as a support to the project activity. Now, if we talk about Government of India, we have already started the development of domestic carbon market. And if you will see some of the market-based experience that we had in past, there was a perform, achieve and trade scheme by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, where we had more than 1,300 energy-intensive consumers from 13 sectors, and we have saved around 98 million tons of CO2 through that scheme, and 33 million tons of CO2 credits are issued. Same is with renewable energy and then the clean development mechanism. But if you will see from a compliance perspective, as such, we did not have any carbon market. And from voluntary also, you will see that we did not have any government-run voluntary carbon market program. So in December 2022, the government of India amended the Energy Conservation Act, and it provided two powers to the government. One, to specify the carbon credit trading scheme, and then second, to issue the carbon credit certificate. In the June 2023, the government of India came up with the carbon credit trading scheme notification. Basically, it provided the basis with respect to, say, institutional framework, what roles and responsibility different departments will play in operating the carbon market. And then subsequently, there are certain amendments which were undertaken to also introduce a voluntary market from a government perspective. So in June 2023, the first carbon credit trading scheme notification came into force. And then in 19 December 2023, there was an amendment and offset mechanism was also introduced. Now, if you will see the CCTS notification, which was introduced in June 2023, basically it provided the broad institutional and regulatory framework for government to specify the carbon credit trading scheme. Under this, there was a different institutional framework, like Bureau of Energy Efficiency will act as an administrator, Grid Control of India will act as a registry to maintain the carbon credits, and then the regulations for credit. And also, as we have accredited energy auditing firms, there will be a requirement of carbon verification agency to verify the annual reports, verify the emissions data. So there could be a business opportunity to the consultants to come and apply for accreditation with BE to become an accredited carbon verification agency. But importantly, the carbon credit trading scheme introduced two mechanisms, compliance and offset mechanism. I will go into details of that. So this is an overall institutional framework where the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is administrator for the scheme. Then there is a technical committees who will guide Bureau on technical aspects. There will be accredited carbon verification agencies who will be accredited by BE to conduct the verification activity. Registry will be the Grid Control of India on the carbon credit part, and then definitely the power exchanges where the credits could be traded. This is the overall governance structure for the National Steering Committee, where it is an interministerial body which is chaired by Secretary Ministry of Power and Secretary MOEFCC. And then there are members of different ministries, and also state departments are there. So we have representatives from Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra also as part of the steering committee. So steering committee will overall guide the functioning of the Indian national carbon market. And then there are experts also who are part of this scheme. Now, importantly, what are the key mechanisms which you have? So under the Indian carbon market, there is a compliance mechanism, and it is expected that it will be transitioned from a perform, achieve, and trade scheme. Right now, under the perform, achieve, and trade scheme, we are giving the targets on energy efficiency to our energy intensive consumers. But under the CCTS, which we expect it to come in the next year, we will be giving the carbon emission intensity target, which is tons of CO2 per ton of product, to different industries. And we have selected 9 sectors right now to transition from PAT scheme. Apart from power, building, discom, and railways, they will not be transitioning, but all other sectors like steel, cement, chloralkali, textile, they will be transitioning from the PAT scheme to a compliance mechanism. Now, under the compliance PET scheme, we were giving the targets in specific energy consumption targets, which is tons of oil equivalent per ton of output. But moving forward, under the carbon credit or Indian carbon market, we'll be giving the targets in terms of tons of CO2 per ton of equivalent product. And industries have to comply with it, otherwise they will have to pay penalty towards it. So this is how the working will be. Suppose if the target or the baseline number for a particular entity is 2.5, the target given by government is say 2.2. So if they overachieve the target, they will they will get the carbon credits which can be sold in the market. And if they are not able to achieve the target, they have to buy carbon credits from the market. So in a way, this will be a market mechanism which will be working, and accordingly the carbon credits will be traded. So this is a compliance mechanism, and the government will be giving the targets to the entities who are under the perform, achieve, and trade scheme. In addition to that, because there are various sectors like forestry, agriculture, urban authorities like landfill, waste to energy projects, compressed biogas project, which may not be able to get credits under the compliance mechanism. So the government is coming with an offset mechanism where, depending on the eligibility of the project can be registered, and whatever is the CO2 reduction which is established through a methodology, the carbon credits in terms of 1 ton of CO2 reduction can be awarded to such projects. So compliance mechanism is more from a mandatory program perspective, and offset mechanism is more from a voluntary perspective. So say if you are planning for a forestry project, or say a waste landfill capture project, for example, methane capture, or any project in the agriculture sector to reduce the emissions, say from systematic rice intensification or drip irrigation, etc., then the projects can be registered under the offset mechanism depending on the eligibility criteria, which will be developed by the government of India. So right now we are in a discussion stage where we are consulting with different stakeholders, and we expect the market to be operational next year with both compliance and offset mechanism, and then the trading could be started in next 1 to 2 years is what we are anticipating. So this is what we wanted to present on behalf of Bureau of Energy Efficiency on what we are doing in the Indian carbon market. To summarize, we have come up with a carbon credit trading scheme notification in June 23, and which was amended in December 2023. Subsequently, under the CCTS, the institutional and regulatory framework has been established, and 2 mechanisms have been specified. Compliance mechanism will be a mandatory mechanism where the targets will be given to individual manufacturing facilities, and it will transition from perform, achieve, and trade scheme of Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And then there will be an offset scheme where projects from agriculture sector, transport sector, renewable energy sector can come and register their projects to get the carbon credits from such projects. So this is what we wanted to present, sir. If there are any questions, please feel free to share, sir.
Thank you, Atif, for the wonderful presentation on the carbon credits schemes.
Yes. The question, sir, can I respond to this, or are there any next speakers who will be coming, sir?
No, there are no other speakers. If we have a question, we can take up.
Okay. So there is a question from Sanyal, Mr. Sanyal, sir. Carbon credit value varies from country to country and within India. It is much cheaper than international market. Why so? So, sir, with respect to compliance market, if you will see EU ETS and others, they have a very high carbon price because of the stringent climate action targets which they as a country are taking. So, for example, EU has taken an absolute reduction target for their emissions, while India has taken an emission intensity target. So, in a way, EU has to invest more to achieve same tons of CO2 reduction, but India, maybe if we improve energy efficiency, we are able to reduce in a much cheaper way. So one of the reasons that the carbon prices could be higher in such countries is because of the stringent policies or stringent targets they as a country have taken, which decides the carbon price, or I would say the demand for credits within the country itself. So India right now, we are developing this carbon market, and as we increase our NDC, so we will have more pressure on industry to reduce their emission. So moving forward, we expect that the carbon credit will increase in India, but right now, because of, I would say, the policies and various other factors, the prices are on the lower side in India. That much I can say on that part, Mr. Sanyal. Thank you.
We have some questions in the Q&A. Anuragji, you and Sangameshwar sir can check the questions in the Q&A.
I think it is more in the chat section.
Now, even in a Q&A, are there any questions? Let me just, no, there are no questions. Yeah, chat box, there were some in the chat box, I guess. Most of the questions were answered.
There is a question by Mr. Sumit Sundrial, madam, whether carbon credit and green credit scheme run parallelly. So I would say that technically the answer is yes, because if you will refer to the green credit trading scheme notification, they clearly mention that though we are talking about, as Swapan sir mentioned, green credit is all other aspect other than the CO2 reduction. So it is expected that even in the MOFCC notification, it has been mentioned that if a particular project is eligible to earn green credit and carbon credit both, it can be registered separately in both the market and the credits can be traded accordingly. So this is what I can say based on the notification which is there, Mr. Sumit, and you can refer to that in detail if required.
There are no other questions. If audience wants to ask any questions,
you can raise the hand. Any other question from the audience? I don't feel so.
Right, fair enough. There are no questions. Fine.
Okay. Yeah.
I would like to propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the Consultants Consortium of Chennai. So it was a very interesting and knowledge-sharing session today and a lot of learnings. So I'd like to thank all the speakers, all the almost 9-10 speakers who spoke today, including the keynote speaker, Dr. Suhas Wani. So I'm sure that all the participants have gained a lot of knowledge by hearing all these speakers on different subjects related to sustainability, ESG, environment protection, climate change, GHG emissions, and even an interesting startup which was more on the conversion of chicken waste into biodegradable polymers. So I thank my friend Anurag Gupta ji for volunteering for this session. I thank Rama Venugopal Madam, President of the Consultants Consortium of Chennai, Shri D. Srikantan sir for the opening remarks, welcome address as Executive Committee member of the CCC. And I also thank the Management Systems Consortium of Chennai for giving us this opportunity to have this session, online webinar on the occasion of this World Environment Day, 5th June 2024. So happy Environment Day to all of you, and all of you have a good evening and all the very best for the future.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
And please do join us on June 7th for World Food Standards Day. And then June 11th, we have World Accreditation Day. So please do join us for the subsequent sessions also if you are interested. Thank you. Thank you for the participation.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks to Anil Johri sir also for suggesting the names of all these speakers. Sorry, I forgot to thank him. Without him, this wouldn't have been possible. Thank you.
We owe so much. We owe so much to him, sir.
Okay, bye Anurag ji. Bye.
Thank you so much.